Good evening, everybody. I hope you can hear me. If you can, please let me know. There is the chat box. I've turned it on. Hopefully you can see it. Where are you joining from? There's people in the room already. I can see them. Welcome to you guys. Give you a moment to say hi. Where are you joining? What are you drinking? I've got some tea. It's late. I'm based in Dubai. My name is Nathan, and it is 8 p.m. here in Dubai. Perfect time for tea. Some familiar names. Hi, good to see you guys. And welcome to everybody who's coming on into the room. So, welcome to the third and final MENA Webinar Festival. We've got an exciting lineup, 3 speakers today and 3 speakers tomorrow. As you can see, I'll be introducing them very, very shortly. On the water, I love it. Nice. Saudi Arabia, India, some great locations. 5 p.m. in Tunisia, wonderful. Tea time. Tea time for me, tea time for you, I think. Yeah. So, first things first, as always, we always give certificates of attendance, sometimes the next day, sometimes a week later, depending on how busy we get, but we always send them out. They're free to attend these webinars. They're here to help you with your professional development throughout the year. Our teacher developments sessions run all through the year. We do various things, and we always give certificates of attendance. So hang tight. We will be sending them out with the follow-up email, which will include your certificate. I've been sending them out with a blank box where you can put your own name. Hopefully that's been working well for you if you've been joining the other segments webinars that we've done. If not, we will put the main email in the chat box, and you can just send me your name. Just say you're struggling, and I will send you one with your name on it. No problem whatsoever. I want to make sure you get your own certificate. So if you have any problems, get in touch. I've seen a few people email me. I'll respond to you. In that email as well, we will add a kind of virtual goodie bag of anything that we can find which is related to either today's topics or anything that we think is useful. Maybe a little Christmas and New Year reading or some strategies or some activities. Of course, Macmillan Education is a big publisher and we are connected to many things. So we will send you anything that we can get hold of that we think might be useful to you in your classrooms. These webinars are brought to you by Macmillan Education and our MENA PD Academy, which is our professional development support platform. If you haven't visited the website, you can go to the QR code and go and see what we've got going on there. Subscribe to our newsletter so that we can send you monthly updates of all the activities that we've got going on. And also, I'll be sending out in your follow-up email. So anybody who's attending today, I will automatically send you an email. I'll download all of the attendees from today, and I'll have all your email addresses from your registrations. And I will send you your certificate, your goodie bag, but I'll also send you a feedback form, so you can give us feedback on the content from today. But also there's a question in there asking, what is it you want us to cover in 2026? What kind of topics would help you to develop your classrooms in the coming year? So feel free to put anything you want, and the most popular topics we'll look into getting speakers, presenters, running workshops, running webinars on those topics in 2026, so that we're basing all of our activities on the things that are important to you guys. We're also always on the hunt for new speakers. In the summer, we will run another webinar festival, and this is called MENA Voices. So it's all about presentations from you guys. So if you want to become a presenter, if you want to share your research, any experience that you have, the things that you're passionate about in your classrooms, in that follow-up email as well, I will add a link where you can fill in an application and tell me what it is that you are interested in presenting about, and then we can discuss that. I did get one from the teens event 2 weeks ago, which I'm looking forward to following up. So get in touch if you're interested in not just learning from us, but also contributing, because this is a professional development community. We're all in it together, and you guys have, there are hundreds of you here, I think. How many? We've got 80 so far. I'm sure more will come. There's 80 wealths of experience here in the room itself, and we want to hear from you guys. So this is the third, as I mentioned, festival. We've been running these for the last month. Hands up if you attended the Young Learners. I'm putting these up as a kind of reminder and an appreciation, I guess, moment for all of the webinars that have come before today. So 4 weeks ago, we held the Young Learners Festival, and we had Sarah Hilliard, Donna Shaw, Ola Rafat, Miriam joined us, Michelle and Vanessa as well, and they looked at a variety of wonderful topics: empathy, wonder, curiosity, and skills as well, thinking skills. And Ola delivered a really wonderful session on writing skills. If you weren't unfortunately with us, but you do want to catch up, if any of that looks interesting to you, you can go to YouTube and look up MENA PD Academy, which is our page there. Subscribe while you're there, but you can see the recording for these wonderful sessions. They're there if you want to watch them in your own time. Then 2 weeks later after that, we held the Teen Learners Festival, and I was lucky enough to be joined by Kate Pickering and Dave Spencer. We looked at everything from classroom participation, mixed ability classrooms, differentiation, universal design for learning we looked at. And we also had looked at things like future-proofing, what kind of skills today's teens need, how they handle social media pressure, and how they look after themselves in that kind of digital technology space. So again, lots of really interesting content, lots of ideas, tips, and activities throughout those 2 days, helping teachers with teen learners. But I would say some of that's probably applicable across all the segments. If you're interested, again, the recording is on the MENA PD Academy. You can go and watch that in your own time. And that brings us to the third festival, which is today. So today is day 1 of our 2 days. Today we're going to be joined by Jon Hird, Mohamed Nabil, and Fatima Al-Absi. And we're going to be looking at conversations and opinions. We're going to be looking at online teaching. I know a lot of you probably are teaching online classes, and how we can build rapport with students. And then we're going to be looking at a framework for motivating young adults in the MENA region. And then tomorrow is the Educating Adults Day by our global team, and they're going to be looking at supplementaries, coursebook adaptations, and the importance of memory. So lots of interesting things going on tomorrow as well. If you haven't registered for tomorrow, there is the QR code for the day tomorrow. I will leave it up just for a second. So if you want to scan it, you are welcome. But I can also put this up in the chat box as well, so you can register if you miss this QR code. I'll give you just a second. And I'll see all the extra places where people are joining from. Good, Yemen, India, Birmingham, nice. I was in Birmingham last week. Egypt, Georgia, always good to see you guys from Georgia. Morocco, wonderful, I'm glad to see you guys here. Okay, we will put that in the chat box as well, so you guys can register. And it's on the last slide as well. I'll share it again later. So without further ado, I am going to welcome on our first speaker. Jon Hird is going to be our first presentation. And he's going to be looking at the language of opinions. So he's going to be looking at speaking classes, conversation classes, and how do we draw out, get our students speaking and using opinions. Jon, welcome onto the stage.
Hi.
Great to see you as always. So quick introduction, Jon is a teacher, a trainer, and an author. He publishes, as you can see in his lovely background, Language Hub, which is a Macmillan education course. And he lives in doesn't live in the University of Oxford. Nice.
I sometimes feel like it.
It would be a beautiful building to live in. He lives in Oxford, but he does English teaching at. So he's you're still a teacher, right, Jon?
I've never stopped being a teacher.
In the classroom still, which is great, I think.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It is indeed. Yeah.
So, Jon, you've got as much time as you want, 45 minutes we're aiming for, and we'll do a bit of a Q&A at the end. I will stop sharing my screen so that you can start sharing yours.
Okay, that's great.
There you go.
I shall share
While
my.
you're bringing yours up, I will monitor the chat box. I know you will interact with it, I'm sure, but if I see any good questions or if anybody has any interesting points, we can touch on them at the end as well.
Okay, I'm just opening the chat so I can. Sorry, I'm just moving a few things around on my screen so I can see the chat.
No problem.
I hope. Just bear with me for one moment. Okay, good. Can everyone hear me okay? And can everyone see me okay? A quick yes in the chat. Could you turn the volume up? Can you hear me? I think my volume's. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, audio is perfect from here.
Okay, that's great. Okay, well, nice to see everybody. I was looking at a few fellow people in the UK where it's. I think somebody mentioned it's been a bit rainy. Yes, it has been a bit rainy recently in the UK. And nice to see some people. I saw someone from Ukraine. That's great. Welcome. A few European countries. A lot of people from the MENA. So that's a nice mix. Okay. Just to just recap on what Nathan said. Yeah, I'm a teacher. I've been teaching for a long time. I currently teach at the University of Oxford. So on the screen is my university email address. So if any of you have any questions, want to get in touch, please do. There are also my social media accounts. So again, any questions, any comments, it's always great to keep in touch and to hear from people. As well as a teacher, I'm an author, as you can see behind me. I'm the author of, it never works, does it, on the thing? Language Hub, a course book series by Macmillan. I thought I'd put that behind me, which is a bit better than my messy bookshelves, which would be behind me. Okay, so that's me. Yep, I'm here for the next 45 minutes, and we're going to be having a look at some language. Some simple language, but some very useful, high frequency, real language that tends not to get taught so much. I'm sure we've all taught the language of opinions. Okay, a lot of our lessons that we teach involves people asking for opinions, sharing opinions, agreeing and disagreeing with each other. So we'll be looking at that, but we'll be then looking at some opinions language that perhaps is less taught. The course books tend not to cover it. The grammar books tend not to cover it. But it's something that I think we can introduce into the classroom. So the idea here is that next time you're doing your opinions language lesson, maybe you can add a little bit extra what we're going to talk about today. And this is exactly what I do. I teach the conventional language, which I'll talk about in a few minutes, the more familiar phrases that are in the course books. But then I say, okay, close your course book. Let's now look at some other language. Okay, so that's the hope today, that you can take one or two things away to add to your repertoire. Okay, so three things. We will briefly think about and look at some speaking activities, classic ones that we might use in the classroom. We will then briefly look at some of the more conventional, traditional ELT opinions language that we tend to teach. Then we look at what I'm calling the real language. By the real language, I mean the very common high frequency language that we tend not to teach. Okay, so what kind of speaking tasks are those? Here's a question. So maybe you'd just like to jot in the chat very briefly. What kind of opinions activities do we do? What kind of lessons, what kind of tasks do we give our students that tend to activate their opinions? Yeah, if you'd like to put a few ideas in. Role play, exactly, role plays. What if? Debates, good, debate, exactly. Debates, persuasive essays, okay, that the written form rather than speaking, but yeah, the language overlaps. Good, anything else? Brainstorm, argumentative essay, yeah, storytelling. Okay, these all involve opinions, some more overtly reflections on poems, I guess, giving your opinion about poems, agreeing with each other. Comparing things inevitably will probably ask for people comparing their opinions. Okay, discussions in general. a lot of the things we do in the classroom, even though we don't think of it as being an opinions lesson, is actually activating the asking for, the giving, and the agreeing and disagreeing with opinions. Okay, here are a few. A debate. Somebody mentioned a debate. That was, I think, the second or third comment that came through, debate. Exactly. I'll be illustrating some of the ideas. They're from Language Hub, but I'm sure these activities are very familiar to you, whatever course books, whatever materials you use. You're going to hold a debate about which is better, box sets and on-demand viewing or more traditional weekly shows. Now, we tend to live in a world today where it's all binge watching, and the old school watching an episode each week tends not to happen anymore. However, I was just chatting with Nathan just before we started this session, and there's a series based in Oxford, actually. In fact, it's based on my road because the author of the novel used to live on my road in Oxford. And it's a weekly show. And it's kind of quite old school that I'm waiting for tomorrow to see the next episode, and it's eight episodes. The 8th one is tomorrow, and it's been kind of like going back in time in a way, waiting for the next week, and it's been great. I've kind of liked it, and I've mentioned it to a few people, and people have said, no, I'm going to wait for it to be finished so I can binge watch it, because I don't want to be waiting a week. People aren't patient anymore. Yeah, I mean, it's the way the world's changing. So this is a debate that I wrote for Language Hub about how you can, traditional weekly TV shows are better, box sets and on-demands are better. Now, as I said, you might think, well, everything's on demand these days. We just binge watch. Well, as I just said, for this show that I'm watching at the moment, weekly TV shows are possibly coming back. Okay, so there's an example of a debate. Yeah, classic, the way you set a debate, you get your two sides, you give them some ideas of why you think this. Here are some ideas of why you think this. The students, of course, can add their own ideas, then you can have a debate. Okay, I'm sure we've all done debates, we've all got our favourite debate classes, but here's one that is, as I said, is quite topical at the moment. And then we often give the debating language as well. We can give some argument language, some agreeing and disagreeing language, etc., etc. Okay, so we might input the language, and then the debate is perhaps the final way to practice the language. Okay, so that's one example of a debate, one that, as I said, I would firmly be on the side of weekly shows now. And as I said, I'm sure I'd have a lot to say about it. Okay. Here's some more. I'll just let you look at those just for a few seconds while I take a sip of water. This is a range of very typical, say whether you agree or disagree. Do you agree or disagree? Discuss your opinion of. Decide on the best picture, decide on the best poem, decide on something, okay? So a lot of what we do is activating opinions, either directly by design to practice the language of opinion, or more general discussion activity that necessarily will probably activate opinions. Okay, the last one, decide on the best animal picture. This is from a unit in Language Hub, and there's an interview with a wildlife photographer. The wildlife photographer is talking about his career. He then talks about the features, the characteristics, the qualities of a good wildlife photo. And then there's a little exercise for the students to decide which is their favourite and why. It's obviously done as a group discussion. They get into little groups. You can rank them in order 1 to 6. You can choose your best 2. You can choose your best 1. And you have to discuss why, and you have to try and reach agreement. And the idea is that you are the panel on a competition to find the best photograph. So in your group, you are the panel deciding the best photograph. So inevitably, you're going to have to agree, disagree. So over to you. A, B, C, D, E, or F. Very quickly, which of those is your favourite and why? Can you just put in the chat? Do you have one of those that's your favourite and why? Just a few, maybe just one word as to why, or a couple of words. E. Okay, E. Oh, a couple of E's are coming in. 3 E's and an A. Okay, A, cute. E looks big and calm. Yeah, the elephant's certainly on a mission. He looks quite calm. I agree with you. F. Yeah, that's like the fish from my favourite cartoon, Finding Nemo, I'm guessing. Yeah. E's a bit of an unusual picture, isn't it? It represents power. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Good, good, good. B. Someone likes B for Kira. I quite like B. I like puffins. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so you get the idea. So that's another little exercise, and the aim is you are the panel. You have to choose the winner. Choosing the winner necessarily will mean you sharing your opinions, agreeing with each other and disagreeing, and hopefully arriving at a conclusion. Okay, so there are just a few examples of the kind of activities that I'm sure are familiar to you, that I'm sure you do these kind of activities in the classroom. Okay, so let's move on. What is the language of opinions? What formulaic phrases and other devices do we tend to teach? So again, back into the chat box, if I said, when you're teaching the language of opinions, what phrases do we teach? I believe, I think, maybe phrases for asking for someone's opinion, maybe phrases for giving your opinion, maybe phrases for agreeing and disagreeing. The functional language, Sahar, yeah, but can you think of some examples of it? In my opinion, from my point of view, I reckon that. Good. Keep going. I believe. Yeah. From my point of view. Okay. What about language? Okay, a lot of the language there is for asking and giving. What about agreeing and disagreeing? What language do we tend to teach for people to agree or disagree with each other? Absolutely. I totally agree. Can't agree more. Couldn't agree more. I understand your point. However, can't agree more. I tend to disagree with you. That's quite nice and distanced. Yes, a bit more tactful and diplomatic. We're on the same page. I beg to differ. Okay, yeah. Sorry, but okay, excellent, good. So what we're going to do now, this next little section, is look at some of this language. We're going to start off looking at the more traditional, conventional language, and we'll think about that a little bit. And then we'll move on to what I said is the language that we tend not to teach, but the language we tend to use. And we had one or two examples of that just there. Okay, so this I'm sure is very familiar to you. Okay, these are the phrases that I've been teaching for all my teaching career, which goes back way into the 1990s. And one of my favorite lessons was always an opinions lesson. And this is the kind of language that I used to teach. So this language goes back as being a classic ELT language for a long time. Okay, and it's very useful language. Okay, what's your opinion of? What do you think of about? How do you feel about? What's your view on? Okay, then we've got the language that we kind of introduce our opinion with. Why do we do this? Why do we say in my opinion? Well, we say it classic and found in course books, exactly. Why do we use these phrases like in my opinion, as far as I'm concerned? Because it's a little cue, isn't it? Tells the person my opinion is coming up next. It kind of paves the way. Yeah. In reality, we don't really use these phrases so much. In general, every day, we just give our opinion. So instead of saying, in my opinion, it's great, we're probably just going to say it's great. Okay. Classic and found in course books, yes. So there is a place for it. There is a place for it, possibly in more formal situations, but when you really need to make it clear, my opinion is coming. Okay. Then if we move up to the top right, we've got the agreeing. I agree. And then we've got these intensifiers. I completely agree, totally, entirely agree, etc., etc. I couldn't agree more. Now, this is interesting. When you were putting in the chat box a few moments ago, I was seeing a lot of I can't agree more. I'm not sure on the relative frequency. I would suspect that I couldn't agree more is probably higher frequency than I can't agree more. But this is something that would be interesting. I'll go and check it. I'll do a little bit of corpus research. But I think the phrase that we tend to teach is I couldn't agree more. And that past tense kind of just adds the hypothetical angle, doesn't it? I couldn't agree more, even if it was possible. It's kind of like a second conditional. So I think that's why we use the couldn't. I couldn't agree more because it isn't theoretically possible. Okay. But I can't agree more. Sounds good to me. Yep. I'll say I'll do a little bit of looking into that. And then the bottom right, we've got these classic phrases. I see what you mean, but I agree up to a point, but we're basically disagreeing, aren't we? I see what you mean, but it's a polite, tactful, diplomatic way of acknowledging the other person's viewpoint, acknowledging their opinion, but basically you kind of disagree largely. Okay. I completely disagree. He's quite emphatic. Okay. So which of those are more frequent? Okay, I've done it again. I've been writing some stuff on the language of opinions, and when I've been preparing my writing and preparing presentations and talks about it, which of those phrases, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which of those 7 phrases do you think is the most frequent in general conversation? In my opinion, in my opinion, in my opinion. Okay, good. If you ask me, the first one, in my opinion, in my view. I see. Do you mean as I see it, Summer? Okay. Interesting. And your intuition is pretty good. Now, I found this quite interesting because these are the phrases that I've been teaching, as I said, ever since going back to the 1990s. This has been my standard opinions class. And I'd never really thought about it. So I did a little bit of research as to actually which of these is the most frequent. And therefore, if it's the most frequent, it's probably the one that our students are going to hear the most. And it's probably the most useful one. And I produced this list. Okay. As I said, this was just a bit of sort of more than casual research, but I'm sure you could research it a lot more. By far the most frequent of these is in my opinion. In my opinion, I've scaled them up. So as I see it, which was the least frequent, I've scored a 1. Yep. And then I've scaled everything according to that. I was surprised because I've spent 30 years teaching as I see it as being a really useful common phrase. And in fact, it's not actually that common. Okay, it's not actually that frequent. It's the least frequent of the classic ELT ones. So possibly next time you're teaching the opinions language, I've certainly done this. I've kind of stopped teaching that. I've got it in the back of my mind. Okay, it exists, but let's focus on the other phrases because they are more frequent. Yeah, we don't want to give our students too much information, too many phrases. Give them 3 or 4 that are useful. Okay, so I've kind of removed as I see it from my repertoire a little bit. If you ask me as well, it's a classic ELT, isn't it? And I'm trying to think, when did I last say, if you ask me? And it's nothing that we actually, or I say very, very often. Okay, to my mind, was more frequent than I imagined. Now, I personally, I don't think I say to my mind, and therefore I tended not to teach it. Fakira, to my mind, is a bit new to me. Exactly. I researched it because I was hearing people say it. I saw it in a couple of course books. So I added it to my little bit of research. In my view, as far as I'm concerned, to me, higher and so on, and in my opinion. So in my opinion is twice as frequent as far as I'm concerned, and then there's a gradual decrease. So this is the kind of thing you can do, not just with opinions language, with any language. You can, do a little bit of corpus research, and you can say, okay, well, this is by far the most common. This is going to be the main focus of my teaching. This one actually isn't very common. Maybe let's not worry about teaching it. Okay. And then we're giving the students a more realistic input according to what's in the real world. So anyway, maybe that's of interest to you. I don't know, but I found it really quite interesting when I came across this. And there was a couple of things that surprised me, especially as I see it, which I'd been teaching for a long time, and I now don't. Okay, let's move on. And of course, we've taught our class, we've input our language, the questions, the ways of introducing our opinion, as far as I'm concerned, in my opinion, etc., the agreeing and the disagreeing. And then we've got some classic practice activities. These are a few from Language Hub. Okay. You mean not to teach the least frequent, Sahir? Yes, basically, I think, we can't, you could produce a list this long of opinions language. And I think what we need to do is choose which are the most useful. And the ones that are most useful are probably the ones that are most frequent. In other words, the ones the students are more likely to hear. So even just on a sort of understanding level, I think we need to expose them to the more frequent language. Okay, so essentially, yes. So if we've got a list of 10 items, maybe we only want to teach 6. A bit of research, get rid of the 4 that are less frequent, perhaps. Okay, anyway, so pronunciation exercise. There's an exercise practicing the language of agreeing and disagreeing, but also with a focus on pronunciation. Personally, I think football's pretty boring. Yeah, we can do exercises like that. It seems to me. Now, all these opinion phrases, we tend to stress the word which refers to me. In my opinion, if you ask me, as I see it, even though that's not very frequent anymore, as far as I'm concerned, yeah, maybe that's something you do, but I think, we just need to spend a few seconds, maybe a short time, just pointing out that we tend to stress the word that refers to me, which emphasizes it's my opinion. Okay. Here is another practice exercise, classic exercise that we might give the learner. It seems to me. Okay, yeah, a bit of distancing, a bit of hedging. I'm not totally sure, and so on and so on. Okay, there's another one. So in this one, we've got the words in the box. In this one, there are no words. The students have to find it from their own their own understanding, their own vocabulary. So it's a slightly higher level of challenge. Okay. And here's an exercise that I like. This one, we give the language, I think, in my view, it seems to me, etc. But what the learner has to do is add the information. So this is a nice little different way of practicing. It's a bit more meaningful. It's a bit more focused on the meaning rather than the syntax of the phrases. I think the Beatles is the greatest band of all time. Okay. In my view, food is the best in the world. Would you like to answer that question in the box? In your view, food is the best in the world. Yep. What would you put if you were doing this exercise? Egyptian, Armenian. Okay. South African. Yeah. Okay. Fast food. Sometimes spicy food, Lila. I agree with you. I like spicy food. Yeah. Turkish, yep, great. So, of course, what you're doing here is you're focusing on the meaning and the content to practice the grammar. Okay, so what we've got on this page is 4, variations on the same theme. Again, familiar activities that I'm sure you do. Okay, and then, of course, we can kind of put it together. You possibly do this. This is something I do with my students, and here are 3 of my students from a class last year. And we'd been discussing opinion language. We've been looking at opinion language. We'd done a few exercises like we've been talking about. And then let's put it all together and try and use the language. So what you can do, you can work in groups of 3, question, opinion, agree or disagree. And I guess you've possibly done something like this before. My students are studying diplomacy. They're studying international relations. So the topics, as you can see, Donald Trump, Keir Starmer, the EU, etc., are more applicable to them. But you can make the topics whatever you want. They get a card, one person turns over a card. What's your opinion of Donald Trump? As far as I'm concerned, he's a bit too old for the job and he keeps falling asleep in meetings. I see what you mean, but... and so on and so on. So this is a very nice, simple way. It's controlled practice. It's controlled practice. You can do it in 2s or 3s. Phrase to ask an opinion, phrase to give an opinion, phrase to agree or disagree. And you can just go round and round, turn over another card, question, response, agree, disagree, another card, question, response, and so on. Perhaps you do this. It's an old favourite idea, but it does work really nicely. Okay, and you can try and encourage the questioner to use a different phrase each time. What's your opinion of? How do you feel about? What do you think of? And so on and so on. Okay, there are lots of variations on this, but this is a low preparation, nice one, and from my experience, it does work. And as you can see, the students seemed to be enjoying it. Okay, so classic opinions language. We've got the phrases that we're all familiar with, and we've got the activities for the controlled practice we're familiar with. And here's a slightly more open one where the students can actually discuss it a little bit. And then, of course, you can move on to your debates and your other activities. Okay, so we're going to move on to the third stage of the session, the real language of opinions. But we haven't got time to look at all the real language of opinions, the giving, etc., etc., the asking for opinions. What we will look at is agreeing and disagreeing. We're going to look at how we agree and disagree. Have a quick read of that. This is from a book that I've just published about spoken grammar. I'll just give you 60 seconds or 30 seconds to read that, and then I'll paraphrase it, but you read it first. Okay, so that's a little overview. Yes, it's kind of saying what I've just been saying. In ELT material, we generally teach these classic phrases that are very familiar, which is great. However, in the real world, we tend to agree and disagree in different ways. For example, and at the beginning, when I asked you, can you just write down some opinions language? One or two of you wrote, absolutely. Okay. And that's a very common way, from everyday informal conversation through to professional business meetings, through to academic seminars. One of the most common ways that we agree is just to give these single, simple words. Okay. Maybe you teach this. I never used to teach it until recently, but now I do teach it. I teach an opinions class every academic year. It was 2 weeks ago, and we looked at exactly this. Okay. And there's an exercise. What a great contact, hey? Absolutely. It was a bit confusing, I thought. Exactly. So you can give your learners a simple little exercise like this. Yeah. Not the best meeting we've ever had. Indeed. I think they're up to something. Definitely. Always good to get away, no? Goes without saying. Now, goes without saying is a nice, useful little piece of language. It kind of means this is always true. So we use it for something where we can respond, this is always true. Yeah. Okay. Always good to get away, no? Goes without saying. Very interesting what he said, don't you think? Absolutely. Okay. A nice little simple exercise. Do any of you actively teach this language? Can you just put a yes or a no? I'm quite interested. Do you actively teach this and maybe do an exercise like this? Okay, good. Good, good, good. Okay, excellent. Okay. Great. And do your students enjoy it? Sometimes enjoy it, or sometimes you teach it? Yes, they do. Okay. Okay. So this is very high frequency, and as I said, informal conversation, right through to professional meetings, right through to academic seminars and context. This is very high frequency language. So our learners will pick this language up from watching films, from social media, etc. Can the answers be used interchangeably, Sahar? Yes, they can. Yes, they can. Okay. What a great contact, hey, definitely. What a great contact, hey, exactly. What a great contact, hey, 100%. Exactly, we can mix them up. Yeah. On the whole, maybe there are some contexts where one answer doesn't quite work, but in general, they're interchangeable. In a role play conversation, absolutely, Layla, but I think maybe at the beginning you could do a bit of controlled, focused practice like an exercise like this, just to establish the language, just so you can work on the pronunciation, because the way we say it is key, of course, and then you can develop it into a freer exercise such as a role play. But I think it's always useful, like we've been looking at, to do a bit of controlled practice first. Okay, next question. What is, according to research, according to academic research, the most common way that we agree with somebody, and what is the most common way that we disagree? Can you pop that into the chat box? Nodding. Agree, agree. Okay, interesting. Well, the most common way is not to use the word agree. The most common way, and again, this is based on academic research, this is all context, from informal conversation in the restaurant with your friends and family, right through to professional meetings, right through to academic contexts. These are by far the two most common ways that we agree and disagree. Okay. Hence the name, the title of this workshop. Okay. Yeah, and yeah, but. Yeah, I acknowledge what you're saying, so it serves a socio-linguistic diplomatic function. Yeah, I acknowledge what you're saying, and I'll add something which helps to develop the conversation. Yeah, but I respectfully acknowledge what you're saying, but I disagree. This is by far the most common language. Okay, there are a couple of examples from social media. Nice, simple, natural language. Okay. So this is language that we really should teach, although we don't really need to teach much because it's so simple. But I think it's language that we just need to establish, and we need to give our students exposure to, and we need to work on the pronunciation. It's not yes and, it's yan, and it's not yes but, it's yebut. So you get your students saying yebut, not yes but, yebut. Yes but can sound a little bit contentious, a little bit argumentative. Okay, yebut. So again, okay. This again is from Language Hub, and I spoke to the editor when we were writing the first edition of the book, and this lesson was on opinions, and I wanted yeah and yeah but to be in there. My editor's first response was, but that's not complicated language, that's, you know, can't we have the phrases like I see what you mean but, etc, etc. Anyway, we discussed it, and we've got yeah and yeah but just there for noticing. Yeah, and we've got it in the opinions thing as well. Okay, and back to the debating language we looked at the beginning, we've got it in there. Simple language, but I think it's well worth spending a few minutes just looking at it, focusing on it, and getting the students to articulate it. Okay, and in a few moments we'll have a look at a simple little exercise where we can actually practice it. Okay. The Michigan Corpus of Academic Spoken English, the TOEFL 2000, yeah, but is the highest frequency expression in academic conversation. There we go. Okay. What I mean is number 2. Okay, but is number 3, and so on and so on. Okay. I'm not exactly sure of the algorithm they used or the formula they used, but I think they looked at sort of 3 or 4 word chunks or smaller. And yeah, but is by far the most frequent, most common one. Okay. In academic context. And as I said, in other contexts as well. Okay. That's the real language of opinion, not I see what you mean, but I agree with you up to a point, but yes, keep teaching that, but yeah, but is much more useful, much more frequent, much more natural. Okay, so what we're going to do just for the final bit of this session is look at a few more simple devices. We agree with additional point. We need to think again, yeah, and. We agree by exemplifying. We agree by generalizing. And we agree by giving a synonym. This is the real high frequency way that in the real world we tend to agree with people. Okay? We need to think again, yeah, and soon. Yeah, and then we add some information. We exemplify. The interview is tough, yeah, especially the second task. Yeah, I agree. And then we give a specific example. Again, it performs a socio-linguistic function. Okay, it moves the conversation forward. We agree by generalizing. He's being a real pain. Usually is. And we agree by giving a synonym. It was great, wasn't it? Brilliant, I thought. Okay. This is the real high frequency spontaneous language that we tend to use when agreeing. It's short, it's to the point, exactly, so it doesn't get in the way. Okay, so as I said, when you're teaching your classic opinions language, you know all the phrases, yes, and then maybe you could add this to it. This is exactly what I do. Let's look at a few practice exercises. Okay, I'll let you look at that just for a few seconds. Exemplifying, the exam was tough, yeah, especially paper 3. The weather's been awful recently. Yeah, especially the last couple of days. What about the lecture was really good? It is. What word could you put in there? It is. Just type in the box. Or maybe type the whole phrase. It is. To agree by generalizing. It definitely is. It sure is. Yes, it definitely is. It sure is. It isn't really generalizing, is it? It usually is. Exactly. It generally is. Yeah. So the device that we use is to give a generalization as a way of agreeing. It's something we do quite commonly. Think about your languages. Okay. The lecture is really good. It usually is. It's been raining like this for days. Yeah, it generally does this time of year. Okay. That's another common device. Okay. What about the synonym? Let's move to the synonyms. Well, that was pretty dire. Anybody? Wasn't it? Can you put in a synonym? A synonym for dire. Yeah, we'd use a synonym for the word dire. Fantastic, but that's an antonym. That's a way we disagree by giving an antonym. We'll move on to that in a moment. Yeah, dire means really bad, terrible. Middle education, terrible, wasn't it? Exactly. Horrible, wasn't it? Disgusting, wasn't it? Exactly. Awful. Excellent. Good. Yeah. And so on and so on. Good. You've got the idea. Excellent. Yes. So these are 3 very common devices that tend not to get taught. They're very common. Perhaps we should, if we don't actively teach them, perhaps we should put them in our material so our learner can just get a sense of how it works. Relate it to your languages. Do you do this in your language? Do you agree in these same ways in your language? That's always a useful thing to discuss with your students. Okay. And the synonyms, I find when I do this in the classroom, we go down a nice tangent of vocabulary. Yeah. Awful, terrible, disgusting. Yeah. It often throws up some interesting, spontaneous language that we can work with in the classroom. Useful presentation, wasn't it? Absolutely, really helpful. We'd better hurry then if we want to get there on time. Yeah, we need to get a move on. So we've got get a move on as a synonym, a synonymous phrase for hurry. Okay, we better get going. We better get out of here. We better skedaddle. It can throw up some quite interesting language that you can turn into a bit of a vocabulary exercise. Yeah, the problem is he worries all the time. Yeah, he's always fretting about something. Okay, we could maybe call that advanced vocabulary. I don't know. Okay, but see what the students come up with. Okay, so I saw somebody there mentioning the Cambridge Sir. My students say, can I use this language in IELTS? In the IELTS interview, and I said I would hope so. I think if I was an IELTS examiner and you were kind of agreeing by using these devices, that would be very natural, quite sophisticated, rather than I see what you mean but, which you've clearly learned. Okay, and we can disagree. Yeah, but we need to think again. Yeah, but not just yet. Instead of agreeing by exemplifying, we disagree by stating an exception. Instead of agreeing by generalizing, we mitigate. Instead of agreeing with a synonym, we give an antonym. So, for example, the exam was tough. Well, except paper 3. Okay, I kind of agree, but yeah. Okay, he's being a real pain. That's not like him. I'm not saying he isn't being a pain, but it was great, wasn't it? Terrible, I thought. Okay. Again, in your students' languages, in your languages, do you do a similar thing? Okay. And can we teach it? And the answer is yes. So just to finish, the final thing, these are some exercises that I take into class. I literally did these exercises the week before last with my student. So what we'll do, just to finish, I think we've got about 5 minutes. We'll just quickly look at some of these, of the kind of exercise that if you wanted to practice this language as an extra to your more conventional opinions language, here are some exercises that you can do. We've looked at some exercises already, but here's one that I do. Statement, you give a cue, and then the students respond. So these ones are exemplifying. Yeah, especially the ending. I love Pink Floyd. Yeah, especially their early stuff. Okay, so you can get the students just in pairs to, if they're stronger students, you can get them to spontaneously respond, or you can get them to prepare their response or even write it down, or they can be a bit of a homework exercise. But then what you're doing, you're getting a bit of natural, very natural sounding spoken conversational language. Lovely meal. Anybody? What's your response to lovely meal? Lovely meal. Yeah, I love cupcakes. Or using my prompt, specifically, okay. Or using a yummy dessert. Yeah, especially the yummy dessert. Okay. Social media. Yeah, especially the so-called experts. Great pierogi. Especially the spinach. And so on and so on. So this one is practicing the yeah, especially. Early stuff, yummy desserts, to give the students more help. Instead of just the key cue, you could give them a bit of grammar as well. So instead of early stuff, their early stuff. Instead of spinach at the bottom, the spinach one. So you can scaffold it to give them a bit more help, okay? So that's one. Generalizing. These are all in a business context. Overton's are late paying again. They always are. They can't reach a final decision. They never can. It's all down to agreeing a price. Anybody would like to, using that same response generalizing? They never come. It's all down to agreeing a price. That's usually the way, Sumia, yes. Yeah, it usually is. Okay. Yeah, it usually is, Majid, exactly. Good, you get the idea, okay? It's not just a marketing problem. It rarely is. The new Tesla is overpriced. They all are. And so on and so on. France would be better than the UK. Anywhere would. So what you're doing, you're getting the student, the language isn't particularly complex. And I think for teaching conversational language specifically, it doesn't have to be complex. It just has to be fluent, natural, and realistic. And I think that's what we're doing here. And one more, back to the beginning. Yeah, but, no, but. It's time we went. Yeah, but not just yet. Nice students. Yeah, but they can be a bit quiet. We should email them. Anybody? Yeah, but they never reply. It's not ideal. It's not ideal. Yeah, but okay, good. We've got yeah, but they never reply. Excellent. Good, good, good. You get the idea. What about the it's not ideal? Yeah, but it could be worse. Shahenda, exactly. I don't want to go, yeah, but we gotta. Okay, and using synonyms, great view, huh? Amazing. Wasn't it great? It wasn't great, was it? Fab, really excellent. Okay, so that's disagreeing. It's pretty ugly, don't you think? Can you think of a synonym for ugly? Hideous, Mona, exactly. The food's good, isn't it? Delicious. Okay, so you can agree or disagree. Nice little simple exercise. There's a bit of vocabulary. There's a bit of pronunciation and intonation work. Okay. And as I said, the language doesn't have to be complex. You'll be getting the learners to do some really quite dynamic, quick, interactive language. Okay. And when we agree with a synonym, we tend to use a stronger synonym. Tasty, delicious. We wouldn't say it was delicious. Yeah, tasty. Yeah, we tend to use something stronger. It was delicious. Yeah, really tasty, we might say. Okay. Pretty ugly, don't you think? Yeah, not beautiful. Okay, a slight kind of, interesting. Yeah. Yeah, not beautiful. Yeah, a little bit of sarcasm in the response there, and so on and so on. Okay. So just to finish, back to this. You've done your classic. I see what you mean, but I couldn't agree more. And then you say, okay, we've now been looking at the real language of opinions. Let's do this exercise again. But this time, I want you to use these short little responses, not the classic phrases. Yeah. A synonym. He keeps falling asleep in meetings. Yeah, he seems to be nodding off a lot these days. Yeah, and especially in front of the cameras. Generalizing. Yeah, especially. Yeah, but, and so on. So you can get the students to do the classic controlled practice exercise, but you could just say, forget the conventional phrases for now, use the phrases we've just been practicing. Okay? And then you can mix it up. And you can get the students just to spontaneously come up with a few. Great session, yeah, especially the beginning. It usually is. Yeah, and some good ideas. Yeah, but you did not. Great session. Terrible, I think. Excellent, I think, and so on. Okay. So that's the end of my session. It's now exactly 5 o'clock. So I hope that gave you some ideas. Just to recap for 60 seconds, you're all, I'm sure, very familiar with teaching opinions language. We've got all the classic phrases that we looked at the beginning. I couldn't agree more. I see what you mean, but in my opinion, etc., etc. Keep teaching that, but maybe you can add a few little other ways of expressing opinion, agreeing, like we spoke about today. And I hope those exercises gave you a few ideas of the kind of exercises that you can do. Nice, simple stuff, but the students, from my experience, they do really enjoy it. Okay, and it also doubles up with quite a bit of vocabulary work as well. Okay, great, I'm done. Nathan, are you there?
I am. Yeah. Hi, John. How you doing?
I'm doing fine, thanks. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks so much for the session. It's really interesting. I was following along. As you can see, I was putting in my answers,
I
and
saw a couple of comments from you. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, I was in there getting involved as well. I mean, it's really interesting to see how language teaching has adapted itself, right, in over the years, and moved away, I guess, from the kind of we must teach formulaic,
yeah,
rigorous, standard forms of English that we think people are going to speak, and actually become more natural. And I guess you mentioned it a lot. And I think we probably talk about it a lot. I think at Macmillan, this idea of the language and culture is so interrelated, so
absolutely,
interconnected. So
absolutely.
actually, what the language that your students are using with each other are not just practice. They're actually how they form relationships in the classroom, how they develop those, especially for adult learners who, unlike children, don't always spend that much time together. They might come into evening classes
Oh,
or
yeah,
even short courses. So you've got a really
yeah,
short space of time, right? Get them to kind of
yeah.
bond and gel, and
Well,
and I guess these types of activities I think are really kind of key
yeah, and
for
as
that.
I mentioned, unlike the "I see what you mean," but the devices we looked at, yeah, especially yeah, and it develops the conversation. I
Mm.
think a little bit in a very simple, quick, interactive way. So if I understand correctly what you're saying, it can help our students just to sort of gel with each other a little bit more. It's a little less mechanical, I think,
Mechanical, yeah.
and
That was where I was going.
there's more a focus on the actual content and the meaning because it's short and sweet. We're
Mhm.
not too worried about these rather long syntactic phrases and so on and so on. But it's the way, and as I mentioned a few times, get your student, you as a teacher yourself, think about, do we do this in our language? And the answer is probably yes, I would imagine, to a certain extent. Get the students to discuss this. Get the student to think, okay, in your language, what's more frequent? Yeah, but, or I see what you mean, but. And I'm sure they will say the equivalent of
Mm.
yeah, but is by far the more natural language. So,
Yes.
but we just looked at opinions, we just looked at agreeing, disagreeing. There's a whole world of sort of spoken language out there that we can add to our existing repertoire.
Yeah, no, I think so. And I agree, moving beyond that kind of mechanical, helping them. And I think one of the things I think people might be worried about is that they want them to learn those mechanical phrases because they'll be useful in, well, you mentioned IELTS, Cambridge
Sure. Yeah.
certifications.
Sure.
But actually, you're giving them a wider variety of language because if you're really helping them, they should end up with both, right?
Well,
And
exactly.
you then
Yes.
help them to distinguish where you would use one and where you would use
Yeah.
another. And
And
that's
probably
a skill in itself.
and out there in the real world, be it professional, social, academic, for every one time they want to say, I see what you mean, but
Mhm.
they will probably 20, 30 times say, yeah, but, for
Mm.
example, and so on and so on. So, yeah, anyway, it's simple language is the best. And as I said, and building up the spontaneity of finding the synonyms.
Mm.
I think it helps to build up spontaneity. You can get them to do a little bit of practice, maybe write it down, and then little by little, it'll help them to develop their spontaneous thinking as well as speaking. So
Yeah, I
good.
agree. Without one thing I want to ask, actually, I don't want to take up any of the next speaker's time too much, but there's lots of stuff in here around practicing in class, getting them to interact in class. I mean, you've got so much experience. What about, do you ever find that are they enthusiastic to use these outside of class? You find that there's a confidence? Do
Well,
they?
I'm never with them outside of class, so it's difficult
Yeah.
for me to know. But I do get students saying, "Yes, John, I've been noticing." What I often get the next week in the class, I've been noticing this, and sometimes I've been using it. but I often get, yeah, I've been noticing this, that I hadn't consciously noticed it before, but now we've focused on it, I'm noticing it.
I guess
So,
that would relate to their listening, right? You're helping them practice their listening
well,
actively.
exactly. As I said, it's as much for their comprehension as for their spoken production as well. So yeah, it would be great to sort of be able to monitor our students outside the classroom and see what they do. But I would
Yeah,
hope, because it's nice, simple, interactive language, I would hope that they would use it. So
yeah.
that's a
No,
good that's a good question.
yeah, what I was thinking, even if they don't actually use it, if they do notice language in the environment,
Yeah,
and because this is the thing for students, right? If you just teach them long mechanical structures and they don't hear that outside of the classroom, they might then think to themselves, should I use this? And that might be a confidence inhibitor, right? Whereas if they go out and they actually I hear this in this
exactly,
context, I might start using. So I think it's really
exactly.
interesting.
And we've just been talking for 2 minutes and we haven't used any of those classic phrases, but we've used a lot of yeah, ands, yeah, buts, exactlys, haven't we?
Yeah, we have. John, thank you so much. It
Okay.
was a really interesting deep dive into language in this session,
Good. Well, I hope everyone that was interesting. As I said, if there's one or two little things you can take away to think about, to research yourself, that's great. Thanks for having me, Nathan. Nice to see you. Nice to be here.
absolutely. And
I,
you will be back in MENA, huh? Soon.
I
Next
will be
month.
back in MENA soon. Yeah, I look forward to it, and maybe I'll see some of you people in person in 2026. I do hope so. And I'll leave you to it. I'll let you get on with the rest of the evening. Have a great evening, everybody.
Thanks so much, John, and
Okay.
we'll see you soon.
Right.
Take
Bye,
care.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Give me 1 second. I'm going to reshare my screen. I need to share one slide, to be honest. As I welcome our next speaker. So wonderful session there by John. It is fascinating. We do tend to do lots of different types of professional development sessions here, and this was a really nice deep dive into kind of real language usage, I think, which is we don't do quite so often. So it's really nice to see this one. But now we are going to welcome Mohamed to the stage. Mohamed, are you there in the background?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can indeed. So, Mohamed, I probably doesn't need much of an introduction. Everybody probably knows that wonderful microphone that you have.
Thank
Mohamed,
you.
a great podcaster. He obviously has Educast, which has done such a fantastic job over the last few years. If you haven't attended the Educast, I'm trying to think of the right phrasing, international online conference. I never get the
Conference,
wording
yeah.
right. Something close to that. It's in February. Macmillan Education are always there. Please join us. It's such a wonderful conference that he hosts. But he's here and he's helping us in the background for Macmillan as well. You're spinning a lot of plates. The king is back in the jungle. Look at that. See, everybody knows who you are, Mohammed. So you're going to be
Thanks,
talking
guys.
about motivation. You're going to you're going to be looking really closely at. I mean, you've got a lot of experience with young adults here in the MENA region, in Egypt and in the Gulf, and you're going to be looking at well, what motivates them, what puts them off, how we can get them on our side, and you've got a framework. I think you're going to introduce to us. Is that right?
Yeah, sure. It's a new framework, and yeah, I think it's a really important topic to discuss today. And thank you for giving me the opportunity again, because I've been a speaker in the previous, in every initiative, hosted by Macmillan Education MENA. I think I speak about something. So thanks again for introducing me. Yeah. So everyone, can you hear me clearly? Is my voice clear? Could you
Yes,
please
loud.
drop number 1 in the chat box if you're ready to start? Yeah, let me just see number 1. And I can see, I think her name is Maria or Marina from Argentina. It's a familiar name already. Yeah. Yeah, thanks everyone. So let me share the screen and whenever you see it, let me know. Okay, before we kick off this session, let me tell you something very important because a lot of questions have been there in the chat box so far about the certificates of attendance. Everyone who has already registered to attend the event will get a certificate of attendance. So we will start sending emails, or Nathan will start sending emails to all registered attendees. So, yes, that's right. So, hello everyone again, and thank you for being part of this. This is Mohamed Nabil, and today I'm talking about my research, actually. Today's session is entitled Beyond Grades, Motivating the Abundance Generation. So, before we start this session, could you please drop the meaning of the word abundance in the chat box? Yeah, the meaning of abundance. Yeah, a lot of, yeah, too much, maybe. A lot of, yeah, that is right. That is very true. Very good. Okay, great. That's amazing. So today we will be talking about something really interesting that would really help you with your learners, especially with this generation of learners. So before we get into talking about theories and, of course, practical ideas, I want to play a quick game with you. Okay. Yeah. So again, that's me. And I always like to introduce myself this way. My name is Meticulous Mohammed. So, as far as you can see, I am describing myself with an adjective that is starting with the same first letter of my name. What about you? Let me see the chat box. Okay, so you have to choose an adjective starting, yeah, with the first name. Oh, the first letter of your name. Yeah, that's right. Maria, that's all. Okay. Nice. Nazia. Okay. Strong Soraya. Patient. Okay. Okay, that's great. Oh, the chat box is running wild. Okay. Happy Hiba. Okay. Attractive Altif. Oh, that's great. Okay. Hilarious Hannah. That's amazing. Innovative Niha. I think I can see lots of familiar face, which is really good today. Okay, that is great. It's a real pleasure to be having all of you today. Nice to meet you all. So let's get started. And I'll start with something really surprising. Okay, and it comes from my own classes, my real classes. Today I'm joining you from El Khobar city in the eastern province in Saudi Arabia, and I teach young adults. Okay, so the problem is, not a problem. Let me ask you a question. I want you to imagine a typical class of 25 students. How many of them are actually excited, engaged, and learning? Any guessings? Any numbers? Okay, maybe 10. Okay, that is some kind of close. Very good. Okay, 50-50, 2 or 3, 5, 8, all of them. Okay, how about 2, 18, 15? Okay, so realistically, maybe 9 of them, and that is only about 36%. So in an average class of 25 students, research and observation suggest that modern teaching methods sometimes fail, and only at best, only 9 of them, and which is 36% engagement rate. And this leaves 64% of your students physically present, but mentally in another universe. In another universe. Okay. So actually, today we're aiming at increasing that rate. Okay. Maybe getting over 75 or 80% of your classes awake, engaged, excited, and really learning. Okay. Whatever the topic is, whatever the focus of the session is. And that's the quick game I would like you to play with me. And I want you to just imagine. Okay. I want to, before you imagine, just close your eyes. Everyone, close your eyes, for real. Close your eyes. Okay? Just close your eyes. And I want you to imagine that you checked your bank account this morning and you found $10 million. Okay? Now, this huge amount of money is yours legally tax-free, so your future is secure, your children's future is secure, you can travel anywhere, buy anything. Now, I want you to open your eyes, okay, and be honest with me. And I want you to type in the chat box, if you had that money for real, would you still spend your weekend maybe memorizing a list of irregular verbs? Would you stress about getting the full mark in a quiz or a test? Just, drop your answers. Yes or no, maybe. Okay, haha, no, to be honest, I would not. No, yes, no. Okay, maybe the majority would say no. And this is something I really expected. Even myself. Yeah, so Nathan is saying maybe just on the beach in Maldives. Okay, yeah, same here. So some people like studying and they have some kind of intrinsic motivation. Some others lack any type of motivation. And actually today I'm offering a solution to help your learners with motivation. Okay, so now I want you to keep that feeling in mind, the feeling of not being willing to study, that feeling of, I don't need this. I have everything that I need, okay? I have everything that I need. So I don't need this. So what is the problem? Well, the problem is with this question, because this is exactly how your students feel every time they walk into your classroom. They aren't lazy, they aren't bad students. They just don't need the job you are preparing them for. Because just think with me, we always tell the learners that you need to work on your language, you need to develop your language in order to secure a good job with a good salary, right? So here's a big question. How do we teach someone who has already won that amount of money? Do you think they will still need that job you're preparing them for? What do you think? Yes or no? So Aisha is saying no, we need to study even if we have that much money. Oh, well, it depends on the mindset. So Rana is saying no. Okay, it's very tough. If you have no purpose, you will not even get up. Okay, Mona says it depends. Amazing answers from everyone. Okay, so yes, language is for communication, but even some people would say that, why should I learn the language if I can hire someone to do business for me, to communicate on behalf of me, right? So we're talking about this. We're trying to be real today. Okay, we're talking with honesty. So in today's presentation, we're going to help you with that. And we're going to go through lots of things. We will do some kind of reality check, understanding what problems are we facing with this generation or the generation of abundance. We will also go through my strategic solution, which is the LEAD framework. And we will cover some practical applications, because this session isn't only about theory. It's about how to do this in the classroom for real. Okay. And last but not least, you will have enough time for your questions and I'll gladly answer them. Okay, great. So just like when you go to the doctor, you want to understand what the problem is. And this is our first question. What is the problem? And I'm talking about students in the MENA region, in North Africa, in the Middle East. Yeah. So in the chat box, I can see Sima saying boredom. And maybe, by the way, in other parts of the world. Yeah. Halima is saying lack of interest. That is very good. You're getting closer. Okay. Students nowadays, Shanda is saying don't feel that attending a class will add anything to them, which is frustrating. That's right. Very good. Lack of resources. That's another good answer. Not motivated. Okay. Laziness. Lack of motivation. Very good. So actually, everyone, we have a disaster. Okay, and I'm not exaggerating when I say a disaster. Well, the problem is with the students' instrumental motivation. And when I say instrumental motivation, we're talking about their needs. We don't understand what the real needs of these learners are. So we go to the classroom. supposing that their need is acquiring a new language to use it for getting a secure or securing a good job, better salary, traveling the world, right? But the problem is that not all students share those dreams, right? So we have some kind of absence for the instrumental motivation. Okay, so I want you to think of it this way. Look at these two pictures and just picture yourself as a student these days. Would you rather go for that luxurious car or luxury car or that grammar book? Which one would you go for? Which one would attract your attention more? This one or that one? Yeah. So yeah, the car for sure. Okay. So Marina is saying the grammar book. Okay. No, she's a diligent one. That is very good. Okay. So Nathan, what about you? Which one would you go for? The grammar book or the car? Okay. I can see. Yeah, I take the car for sure. Okay. That's great. Everyone would take the car. Almost everyone. And if we're trying to calculate the answers in the chat box, we will come up with the same rate, the same percentage that we discussed at the beginning of the presentation. Okay, so the best thing to do before we get into the topic of today is to understand the problem. And you are the perfect example for that issue right now because you're picturing yourselves as students in this generation. Right? Yeah. So Tara is saying in the car we use the book. Okay, so this is, yeah, that's really great. Yeah, that's a good answer. Yeah, that's right. Okay, amazing. So take a look at this picture because I've seen that picture a lot in my classes and in many other teachers' classes because I worked before as a head of department. I took managerial positions. I worked as a teacher trainer and as a teacher. And the problem is the same everywhere in every class. Students prefer to sleep to listening to the teachers. And it's not about the teacher all the time. It's about the students' motivation. There is no motivation. And we cannot keep telling the teacher that you need to motivate the learners. There is something wrong with the way you teach because sometimes modern teaching methods and approaches just fail. And believe me, I work as a TEFL trainer and I train teachers. And believe it or not, I have started to lose my belief in some of these teaching methods and approaches because I'm also a teacher to young adults. Yeah, but instead of losing hope, I've tried to do some kind of self-reflection every day to come up with this framework. Yeah, that's right. This issue happens because of language barrier. Maybe Niha. So there are a lot of reasons behind that. So let me share something with you. And as you can see, that's the level of engagement, or that was the level of engagement with my students before putting my framework or my proposed framework to practice. So regarding the red color, it refers to speaking. So yes, they prefer speaking. Okay, they always like to speak in Arabic or in English. Okay, they are so talkative, but in listening, they do not like it that much. Okay, in reading, they hate reading lessons. They think that reading is always a boring skill. Okay, and the only way they love dealing with reading with is to read out aloud, which is not actual reading. It's some kind of pronunciation or working on their fluency. And regarding the yellow color, and it refers to one of the most difficult skills for the learners, which is writing. What about grammar and vocabulary? Just as, you know, it's the same as writing. Okay, so I think everyone here would relate to that. If not everyone, almost the majority of teachers attending today would relate to that, or to these numbers, or these rates, or these percentages. Okay, so what we're trying to do here is to start with the problem to come up with a true solution that would help your learners and help you make your life easier and the students' lives easier in the classroom. Okay. So we're talking today about embracing reality in the classroom. And I think we all learned about instrumental motivation in university. And it's about learning English to get a job. Okay, they need to get a job, they need to get a better salary. Okay, so we learn about Maslow's needs, food and safety first. Maslow's pyramid of needs, and it's here on the screen as you can see in this picture. Okay, so as you can see, it starts here with the basic needs, psychological needs, food, water, warmth, and rest, and then the psychological needs, safety needs, security, safety, intimate relationships, friends, prestige, and feeling of accomplishment, and then self-fulfillment fulfillment needs, achieving one's full potential, including creative activities. But today we will try to look at things a little bit differently. We will look at it the other way round. Okay, because again, it's our learners' needs isn't what we really aware of. Okay, we need to reconsider our understanding of what some of our learners really need, because we teach different learners and one size doesn't fit all, right? So, for example, in my context here in the Gulf, we have an example of or let's picture it as a teacher going to the classroom having a carrot and a stick, a carrot and a stick. So a carrot represents the rewards, okay, and the stick represents maybe the consequences, the fear of failure, the fear of quizzes, exams, the grades, and so on. Okay, so unfortunately, sometimes the carrot and the stick, both of them fail in managing our students, right? So a student, for example, might do a simple calculation like, why should I learn to write a covering letter or a CV if I can just hire a secretary with a good language level to do it just for me, right? So this is exactly when all theories fail, because they focus on needs, right? We need to stop thinking about that. We need to stop thinking about or focusing on the student's needs and start with focusing on the student's identity. Okay. Exactly. That's right. Okay. So very good. So our solution, or my proposed solution to this problem, was the LEAD framework, LEAD, and it's right there on the screen. So there are 4 letters, and each one represents something different. And here I'm discussing why the example of the carrot do not work. In some countries like Saudi Arabia, the economic situation is much better than other countries. Okay, so the students feel like they have everything. They already have everything, right? So the learning, or the learning experience or the motivation for learning for the students isn't about getting a job or salary, because students are looking for some other things. They are looking for leadership, possessions. So they don't want, of course, to work as employees in a company. They would rather maybe establish their own company and look for other people to hire, right? So things fail completely because students often have financial security. So the need for English at that moment is low, but the potential for identity investment is high. Yeah, they can pay a lot of money to work on their identity. So we have to stop working on the needs, focusing on the needs, and focus more on the student's identity. Okay, so again, it's the LEAD framework. And actually, it's the answer to the question, how do you teach someone who has everything? The first question that we had today. So actually, it's like a strategic shift, moving from the instrumental motivation or learning for maybe getting more money or getting a good job to identity investment or learning for power. Okay, so this framework is built on four pillars. Okay, and actually these four pillars represent the modern learner. Okay, so what do you think these four letters represent? Do you have any idea? Could you please drop them in the chat box? Okay, L, leadership, E, excellence, D, diversity, okay, A, accomplishment, okay, very good. Leadership, okay, you're somehow close. Okay. E, evaluation, nope. Nope. Okay, so at least the first one is right. Okay, which is leadership. You're definitely right. Okay, very good. So actually, that's the framework. It's the MN lead framework. And again, it's built on four pillars. The first one is leadership. The second one is exclusive technology. The third one is A for agency. And the last one, D, is for distinction. And starting with the first one, which is leadership. Again, if we're talking about the same example of that student who doesn't want to learn the language to maybe get a good job, and he would rather hire someone to maybe do whatever he wants from him, right? So now they are looking for leadership roles. They want prestige, right? They want social status. And this is something that we want to provide them with, okay? So we need to stop treating our learners, if we want them to become leaders, we want to stop treating them like future employees and start treating them like future decision makers, future leaders, okay? And as someone who worked before in educational leadership, these roles have taught me that when you give a student the authority, the power to lead, the language follows the responsibility. They have more motivation to learn the language because there is no leader who is not good at everything. This is how they picture things. Okay, so this is for L. What about the other one? The other one is E, which is explicit technology. You know, we're in the age of AI and technology is everywhere, right? And as someone who is really passionate about integrating AI in education, I don't only use technology or AI to make my classes fun. I use it to show them that English is the language of the future. Okay, so if they want to use AI responsibly, if they want to get the most out of AI using generative AI and stay ahead of the curve, they need the language that controls it, which is English, right? Moving from technology to A, which is agency. And I've talked a lot about teacher agency and the importance of making your own decisions, right? So everything can be done with learners. We need to train them to become more autonomous, right? So here we're talking about learner agency. And there is a huge problem that would face every teacher who would work on agency or developing autonomous learning with the type of learners we're talking about. Because wealthy, confident students always resist control, right? So we must treat them as partners who have a voice in their learning journey. We cannot force them to do everything. We just should give them some options, maybe, right? They are not just empty vessels to be filled. And in order to support the three previous pillars, we have the fourth one, which is really worth it. Okay, the fourth one, which is distinction, and distinction is about public speaking, right? Everyone sees public speakers as experts. And since they really want to have good positions in their societies, run businesses, travel here and there, deal with everyone around the world, well, they need to master public speaking skills. Okay, so we need to teach them that English is used to build their personal brand and public speaking skills. Okay, they need to gain fluency in order to make this happen. So, in short, this framework doesn't ask students to learn English for just a grade. Okay, it challenged them to master English so they can lead the conversation, so they can lead the world or even their own societies. Okay, so again, we have some examples for each pillar of this framework, starting with leadership. How can we implement those pillars in the classroom? Because as I said before, it's not only about theory, it's also about practice. We need some kind of practical aspect of this framework, maybe to try and test it with our students maybe tomorrow, right? So in order to work with leadership, I want you to just ask your learners maybe, and instead of just telling them, okay guys, now you need to work together or role play a conversation together, and instead tell them that, okay, now I want you to work in a group. You are running a company, you are the board of this company, and I want you to find out some solutions to these challenges. So now we're helping them with problem solving. We're helping them with using English without forcing them. They use English to come up with solutions. They try to use the resources they have, the vocabulary they know, the grammar they know, in order to give meaningful sentences. Okay, so yeah, everyone, are you still? Yeah, can you hear me? Because I don't see. Yeah, okay, that is great. That is great. Okay, great. Amazing. Okay, so again, we're still talking about teaching our learners how to be leaders. Okay, so we can ask them to work on solving a problem or a crisis that happened into their companies or their businesses. And this is how they grow their leadership skills. Okay, moving from leadership to explicit technology. And if we're talking about technology, we will remember AI, right? And one of the most important thing about mastering the use of AI is prompt engineering. Okay, so you can ask your learners to open AI image generator. Okay, open AI image generator. Okay, and maybe write the correct prompt, okay, in English to generate an image, maybe for them or for anything else. Okay, so the more they try, the harder they try, they master the skills of prompt engineering more. Okay, that is why, okay, helping them with AI, prompt engineering technology will definitely help them. And of course, they will use AI for running their own businesses, right? Maybe for creating a strategy or launching a marketing campaign or anything else, right? Okay, the third pillar is agency. And agency is about depending on themselves, and it's about making their own choices, not being controlled. And you can ask them to work on negotiating and trying to persuade someone else. Maybe if someone wants to sell a product to someone else, to a customer, to a client, he needs to learn how to negotiate, how to persuade, how to use the right language, how to manage the conversation. So agency will develop over time if you integrate examples or activities like that. Last but not least, exactly, negotiation skills. And if you notice, we're talking about life skills. Okay. The fourth pillar is distinction, and you can play with them a game or implement some kind of activity like the TEDx speaker. So you can tell them, okay, now guys, you have 3 minutes on stage. Don't take any notes, okay? And I want you to inspire us with an idea you love, okay? And we might invite another class to watch you, okay? We will take a video or we will film it, okay? So when they realize that speaking English fluently using the right language, okay, will make them sound and look charismatic and sophisticated, they will work harder than they ever would for a grade. But if you just tell them, okay, now guys, I want you to do a presentation and you'll get the full mark, who cares about the full mark? Right? So this builds on the public speaking skills we often neglect in favor of other language elements like grammar. Right? So now I was talking about one side of the coin, a type of students who have everything, almost everything. Let's talk about another type of students who don't have anything, but they don't see a real value in learning English because they would rather choose something else. And here I'm talking about learners who would really like to be influencers, bloggers, YouTubers, because they have seen the success of many examples on the internet. Right? And this is a huge problem. So, for example, long time ago, if you ask a student, including me, what would you like to be in the future? I would say a doctor, maybe an engineer, a police officer, or any other job, right? But ask anyone right now about his or her favorite jobs or what they would like to be in the future. They will probably say YouTubers, bloggers, right? Influencers, because they see that they can make much more money than any other job, right? So we need to work hard on that. Yeah, streamer, right? And I think I'm talking about your students too. I'm not only talking about my students because we share the same problems. So instead of just trying to convince them with something really hard to believe in, especially that other jobs won't give them enough money to live a good life, okay? We will try to understand what the problem is first by diagnosing it. And let's think of the traditional view. So teachers usually say, learn English to get a degree and to get a good job in a company, right? This is what we do. This is what teachers do. Okay. And your students would say, well, I don't want that particular job. I want to make videos. Okay. Why do I need to write an essay? I need views, right? I don't need vocabulary or grammar. I don't need grades, right? So the result here is a complete absence of the instrumental motivation, right? So that's the problem. How can we work with that? We need to try to fix this by implementing the lead framework again. Okay, but how can we do this? Well, okay, so talking about the TikTok generation, and I call them with this name because they use TikTok a lot, right? Most of their influencers, bloggers are just there, or the YouTube generation. So anyway, we can use the same lead framework we used with the other type of students with this type of students we're talking about. So we can work on their leadership skills. Maybe we can stop talking about how to become a leader in a meeting, how to get a leadership position in a company, okay? And instead, we can say, well, guys, why don't we talk about leading a community on social media, right? Right? So you can say, okay, guys, you want to be influencers? Great. the biggest money comes from global brands like Nike, Apple, right? Adidas. So they don't sign contracts in Arabic, right? Or in Arabic slang, since I'm an Arab, right? So they sign in professional English. If they can't read what you want to say to them, well, they would they will never want to work with you, right? So you need to learn good English, right? If you can't read the contract or negotiate the deal, you will lose every opportunity you have. So this is about leadership, right? What about technology? Well, okay. So as a digital marketing consultant, I try to understand algorithms, right? And because we want to reach a wider audience every time. So helping learners with English is the key to unlocking the algorithms of social media. Okay, so the trends start in English first, right? And if you wait for them to be translated, you are late. This is something we need to tell to our learners. So if the student knows English, they can watch maybe all the new ideas, the brand new ideas in English, right? They will understand them. They might even come up with other ideas or newer ideas inspired by other influencers or bloggers who speak English, right? And they can, of course, apply these ideas here before anyone else. So English would give those learners the first mover advantage. Okay? Moving from explicit technology to agency. Well, okay. So agency, when it comes to social media, when it comes to the platforms, we're talking about choosing maybe the platform itself. Which platform to use, right? TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, right? So instead of asking the learners to write a paragraph, you can say, for example, okay, now I want you to write a script of a 60-second YouTube short or a Facebook reel about the topic of English. Yes, they still have to use grammar and vocabulary, but they are doing it in a format they respect, in a way they like. Okay? So, moving to the last pillar, which is public speaking. Think of all influences. What they really share is good public speaking, right? They need to be good at public speaking in order to go viral. Okay, so we need to tell the learners that if they speak only their own language, their own dialect, the audience will be much less in the number than they would get if they speak English. Right? Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so these are some ideas of following the lead framework in these classes with those types of learners. Okay, so we're talking about teaching with lead. What about some more practical ideas for language teachers before I run out of time? Well, we have language systems and language skills, and we will share some ideas on how to teach, for example, grammar. How can we teach grammar using the lead framework? Well, think of a lesson like teaching modal verbs. So the old way of teaching modal verbs is like teaching must, should, have to, right? Maybe for school rules, we're trying to personalize things. But unfortunately, things don't work this way for those type of learners, right? And instead, we can follow the lead way. We can teach them modal verbs for negotiation. So we can give them a task, like, for example, you are negotiating a contract. So if you say you must sign, you lose the deal. They cannot use must. Okay, so how do you use might want to or could consider? Maybe to make your language look much more professional, or, to soften the blow, but keep the power. Okay, so this is for developing leadership skills. What about distinction? Well, think of teaching some tenses like past simple and past continuous tenses. Okay, and we're trying to compare both tenses together. So we can use maybe storytelling for influence. Okay, we can tell the learners that, okay, great leaders always tell great stories. Now I want you to use those tenses, past simple, past continuous tenses, to tell the story of how you solved a huge problem in your life. Okay, so the most complex grammar wins the best storyteller award. And you, of course, you will notice the difference. Okay, thinking about teaching vocabulary after teaching grammar, if you are to teach your learners some kind of adjectives like big, beautiful, modern, and other adjectives, if you want to implement or use the lead framework in that, you can ask the learners to make ChatGPT sound like Shakespeare, then like Elon Musk. Okay, so the students need to find the specific adjectives and style words, okay, to force the AI to change its persona from Elon Musk to Shakespeare and vice versa. Okay, so this is to help them, okay, control, lead AI. Okay, and of course, it helps them with technology skills, with explicit tech and AI. Okay. Another example of teaching some skills like reading, for example. Well, we're trying to move from comprehension to much deeper analysis for reading texts. The most traditional way in teaching reading to our learners is by asking them maybe to read a particular page. So, for example, guys, I want you to read page 45. Okay. Okay, what about the lead way? Well, we can ask the learners to understand the market trends, okay? And they can choose the resource or choose the source, okay? Maybe an article from a well-known newspaper or a magazine, okay? And they have only 15 minutes to brief the class, to summarize it, okay? So this would help your learners with agency because they are making their own choices. Okay. Another way for dealing with listening is by working on gap filling exercises. Okay. So instead of asking your learners to listen and fill in the missing words, well, my question to you right now is, how can we develop the students' leadership when asking them to listen maybe and fill in the missing words? Or how can we help our learners with leadership in listening lessons? Any ideas? Still, yeah, provide out down top processing. That's interesting. Okay. Tara is saying provide them with instructions first on how to deal with the text. Okay, good. Okay, promoting teamwork. That is amazing. How can we do this? Hibatullah is saying taking the initiative. Okay, that is amazing. Okay, using icebreakers. Good ideas. Okay, well, actually, all of those ideas are great to know prediction from the topic about. Yeah, so you maybe creating some sense of anticipation, right? Chatting to ChatGPT. Words they are gonna listen, headphones, some listen, some don't. Okay, good. So, well, we can ask the learners to analyze the tone of the speaker in the audio. So we can play a clip maybe from Shark Tank or Succession. Okay, so ask the learners not to listen to the words, listen to the tone instead. Okay, so ask them these questions. Is he lying? Is he nervous? How do you know? Okay, so what language, what type of language, or what hidden language did he use to avoid answering the question? So instead of forcing the learners to focus on every single word in the text. We're trying to force them to dig deeper, to analyze what they are listening to understand what lies beneath what is being said. Okay. Regarding speaking, let's move to the productive skills really quickly. Okay, so for teaching speaking, well, we're trying to shift from role plays to public performance. And the traditional way of working with that in the classroom is by asking the learners to describe their dream jobs. Okay, so instead of doing that, we can ask them maybe to try to do a presentation to promote something, to promote an idea before a billionaire investor. And the learners have 60 seconds to sell their ideas. Okay, so this will definitely help them with distinction, with their public speaking skills. Okay, there are a lot of ideas that would help you definitely in working with all the 4 pillars of the framework. We're just picking some practical examples. Okay, last but not least, regarding teaching writing. Well, learners hate writing essays, right? So here we're trying to shift from essays to brand management. Okay, so instead of asking our learners to write an essay from scratch, okay, we can ask them to ask AI to write the draft, and the student's idea or the student's role is to improve that draft. Okay, maybe make it much more human, use a better tone, better style, right? They can fix the tone, okay? So they are not the writers, they are the editors, and this helps them with leadership skills, with technology skills, okay? So we're talking about the change in role of teachers. So teachers are changing their roles from being instructors to being coaches. Okay, so in order to make the lead framework work for you, you have to change your title mentally, not by telling the learners, don't tell me teacher, tell me coach. No, you cannot do this. Okay, you have to change your title mentally. Stop being the school teacher and start being the communication coach for your learners, the consultant. Okay, so you are there to help your learners build a positive image, okay, and sharpen their skills for the global stage. So when you treat them like clients, they treat you with professional respect. Okay, so my final thoughts before I move to telling you maybe the summary of the presentation in a minute, let me share with you the same study. This is the progress my learners have made after implementing some of those ideas in my classes. And take a look at how much engagement, motivation, and learning increased after using and implementing the LEAD framework, especially with reading, listening, speaking, grammar and vocabulary, and they are still struggling with writing, but over time, things will keep growing. So everyone, I want you to think for a moment. If you take only one thing from today, let it be this. Show them that English helps them lead companies. Show your learners it helps them command AI and technology. Give them the agency to choose their path. And last but not least, help your learners achieve distinction on the global stage. And that's the LEAD framework. So before I end this session, this is just an idea. This is just an idea, and I'm still trying to support it with research, with surveys, with real application. But it is really worth it because we're all teachers and we're all lifelong learners. So let's all keep developing. Thanks, everyone, and I'm waiting for your questions.
Thank you so much, Mohamed, for a really fascinating session. We're all kind of gripped by these ideas that you're developing, and you can see so much passion that you have for, you know, developing and these ideas and really tapping into your students, and a lot of this is about getting to know them, building rapport with them, which is going to be in the next session, I know. And then really kind
Yeah.
of, I guess, getting on their level and just really understanding them, understanding their needs, understanding their desires, understanding their interests. And so you kind of pull lots of, I think there's lots of ideas that kind of feed into all the different webinars that we've hosted over the last few weeks. You know, you've got stuff in there around empathy, you've got stuff in there around, you know, you're differentiating. I love seeing these activities that you've created at the end. You're tapping into your students, you're trying to find what's really motivating for them, and tailoring your content, not just tailoring your content to make it more digestible for them, but to make it digestible for different types of students as well, giving them choice. You can do this if you want, or you can choose to do something else. You can make it your own, and then giving them the opportunity to use the language, which I think is fantastic. It's really lovely. I'm going to be the first one to read the book when you when
Thank you. Yeah, I'm still working on it.
AD.
I'll share it with you. That you're the first one to get it, of course.
I'll be the first one to get it. I know
Yeah.
you need to go. I know you have other appointments, so I know you need to go. But I didn't see any. I mean, there's a ton of love coming through. I can't even scroll back that far.
Thank you.
I didn't see
There's a
any.
question about whether AI would replace teachers. Nope. We created AI and it will never replace the creators, right?
Yes, I had a quote today saying AI will not replace people who use AI will replace people who don't use AI. That's the quote I heard.
Exactly.
So,
That's right.
and
Couldn't
it's
agree more.
and you know, for the next generation and the generation after that, I don't know how you would even stop them, to be honest, at this point. They're going to use it, so you can put your head in the sand, or I guess get on board and figure out how to use it in the most constructive way, and teach them how to use it. You had some really nice ideas there for helping them to use AI in a way that helps them, not just
Without telling them that you
that's
should
what you're
use AI that way.
yeah.
Okay. So it happens, subconsciously.
Yeah, which is tempting to do, to say to them like the AI is dangerous, or how much information are you putting into AI, or how much are you uploading, or how much energy is it sapping out of, or water, or sapping out of the world, or whatever. But I guess, someone mentioned the word facilitating. You're easing them, you're kind of guiding them in a direction that is hopefully beneficial to them long term.
Yeah.
Thanks so much again. Really wonderful session. I loved it.
Oh, it was a pleasure. Thanks, Nathan. Thanks, everyone, for your interaction, for your participation in the chat box. And yeah, see you soon.
Thanks, Mohammed.
Okay, bye.
Where did we go? I'm not sure where are my slides. So big thanks to Mohammed. If anybody does have any questions, please put them there, and we can answer them in the follow-up email if needs be. So our third and final. Thanks for sticking with us. I know it's a long evening for many of you. A lot of you have been probably teaching all day as well, so we really appreciate you guys spending this time with us. And hopefully a lot of these ideas are really useful, and you're going to think of using some of this stuff in class. But without any further ado, I'm going to welcome our third and final speaker, Fatima. If you are in the back room still, if you'd like to.
Yeah. First of all, I want to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. And it's a little bit cold here in Yemen. And what about you guys? What is the weather like? Where do you live? Can you share that on the chat box, please? Is it cold, warm, very cold, freezing? It's cold, when I said good.
40 degrees in Argentina.
Yeah.
That's more like
Yes. Rainy weather. Some people said that. Very
Yeah.
cold.
It was very cold. I was in the UK last week, and it was very cold there, and
Yep.
we had a little bit of rain. So,
Yeah.
but I'm in Dubai, and it's 10 p.m., so it's dark. But I would say it's probably warm. I think not
Yeah.
hot, not cold. That nice. You can sit outside temperature. I think here at the moment.
Yeah. So you are lucky to have a warm weather.
Very lucky. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Been
all
cold
of you
before.
agree. Yeah, they are all agree that it is a cold weather. Lovely. Okay. So please wear a heavy clothes, and this will help you. Um, before we start this webinar, I was thinking about something, which is, shall I start with the topic directly, which is boosting rapport, or shall I start with a game? What do you advise me, guys? Which one shall I start? Direct topic or the game? A game,
I think the
game.
game.
Yeah, all of
I
them
think the
agree.
game. I'm gonna share. You might want to share if you have a game on us. Well, there you go.
Okay, that's fantastic. Great. Lovely. All of them agrees. Yeah, game. Okay, fantastic. But I want to warn you, it is a cold weather and you will be hungrier. Okay? Let me first share with you. Okay. We can see here different kind of food and drink. Okay? And we have at the other side the names of those food and drinks. What is the game as? The game is trying to show you your personality through the food. So you can say, I am food or drink because, like the example here, I am coffee because I give people energy. So who are you guys? Choose the food and choose because. Can you share that on the chat box, please? I am pizza because what? Why? Why are you pizza? Um, Cupcake, is that okay? Okay, so you have to mention why. Good. I'm salad because I give people vitamins. Oh, lovely. That's amazing. I'm water because people need me to live. Amazing. Fantastic. I'm chocolate because I always make people happy. Great. I cannot, okay. Oh, it's running very fast. Okay, I'm cupcake because I'm old and blood slightly over the sides. No, you're still young. I'm red. I'm rather toppy good. I'm sad because I'm always fresh. Fantastic. I'm cupcake because I'm very soft. That's great. Thank you guys for answering. Thank you. I'm chocolate because I want you. I cannot read it. I'm sorry. Okay, cupcake because I'm sweet. Fantastic. Thank you guys. Thank you. Thank you. I hope that you are not hungry now and cold. That's great. Good. Good. I'm sad because I have mix of ideas. That's fantastic. Now, the question is, what do you think the purpose of this game is? What do you think? Is there a hidden message or no? People love fruits. I'm coffee because I'm dynamic. Okay. Make us hungry. Yeah, right. Yeah, some people said yes. Yes. To know each other. Thank you, Aya. That's excellent. Using conjunction. Good. Yes. To know us. Individual difference. Okay, good. Attract a listener. Amazing. Amazing. Good. Breaking the ice, Aisha. That's fantastic. You just spot on it. Thank you. Related to the topic, motivation. Nice answers. Thank you. Thank you. Many of you mentioned icebreaker, and this is great. And what is the job of the icebreaker, especially with us as an English teacher, is to connect with each other. Okay, icebreaker help us to create positive atmosphere and set the tone for the session. So building rapport or a good relationship with our students is what we are focusing on today's session. So rapport, it is not about just fun activities. It is about building trust and respect that will support students' growth and success. So this is the topic of today's webinar, posting rapport with your students, practical activities for online classes. This webinar will be presented by you, the audience, because you will help me in that. Actually, I didn't prepare it well. That's why I need your help. So please help me and I will help you. I will facilitate it by me, Fatima Al-Absi. Okay. the table of the content, which is what is rapport, the importance of rapport, practical steps for a good online rapport, science of good rapport. So you can find rapport in every place. And the final one is toolkit for communication. And the last one, questions and answer. So guys, are you ready? If you are ready, please drop any emojis on the chat box. Let me see, how do you feel? Oh, good, lovely, fantastic. I love, big love to you all. Thank you. That's great. That's mean you are ready. Good. That's lovely, fantastic. But please don't sleep. I know it is late a little bit, but try to wake up with me. As I told you, I need your help. Good. Now, look at this picture. What do you feel, guys, when you look at it? What kind of emotion you have? I know that maybe you remember your bad days at the school, but I want to know your feeling now when you look at this picture. Disappointed, thank you. Sad, Abdurrahman, fantastic. Scared, yes, thank you, Intisar. Sympathy, so my good. Aisha said, bad, yes. Yeah, we have the same feeling. It's very strict, yes, Nadia. Yep. This is the whole story. Thank you. Trauma. That's great. Thank you, guys. So all of you have bad memories here. I want to give a title to this photo, which is I hate math. So let me start with my saddest story with math. And let me tell you the truth that until today, I cannot do simple arithmetic. For example, if you ask me 1 + 1, it will take for me time of hesitation. Oh, what is it? Is it 1? Is it 2? And maybe I will use a calculator to be sure. Not because I am not capable, but because I have a bad experience with the math teacher. She used to be so strict, and she dealt with us as soldiers, and she is the commander. She just entered the class, explained, and that's it. I remember once that she just punished me and hit me on my hands because I didn't do the homework. And the next time I didn't do what I can remember, the multiplication table, and she sent me to the principal to punish me. But the biggest and the worst one was when I failed in the midterm quiz with mathematics. I want you just to imagine, it was the last class of the day. She entered, okay, and she is angry. And she told us, okay, I will announce the result of the quiz. And I will start with the failures. After that, the successful students. And she just grabbed the paper and just imagine what? My name was the first name. It is a bad memory. Okay, she told me, okay, stand up and go and stand up next to the blackboard. And when she finished, we were a group of failures standing together. Just imagine. She turned to us, she scolded us, and she told us, okay, from now on, you will sit separately on that corner so the other students will know that you are failures. And by the way, the whole school had already known that we are failures because they were standing outside the class looking at us through the windows. It was a horrible memory. And that's why I hate math until today. That teacher, she just focused on her job. She didn't try to ask me, for example, why didn't you do the homework? Or why didn't you keep that? Or why did you fail? What's the problem? She just keep a broken relationship with me and with other failures, if I can say. And that broken rapport or relationship affected a lot on my future. So just imagine till now, I can't understand or bear looking at mathematics. It is a horrible memory and affected on me a lot and changed my future. Maybe if I was a genius in mathematics, I will be with NASA now, but what we can do. Okay, what about you guys? Has a teacher ever made you hate a subject? If so, which subject was it? Can you please share that on the chat box? Also, Somebody said, I hate math too. Good. Maths. English. Art. Geography. Somebody said no. Maths. Good. So we are sharing the same subject. Research in college. Good. Fantastic. All of you agree that math is horrible. And Mohammed said English. I don't think so. Physics. Great. Great. Thank you, guys. So at least we are share something, even if it was bad. And I'm sure also that many of you can relate it to this, that when we don't feel understood or supported by our teachers, learning can become much harder. But think about it. If a broken relationship can damage a student's confidence, imagine what a strong relationship can do. It can inspire them and help them believe in themselves. Okay, that's great. Now we are talking about rapport, but I want your help, as I said. Can you please complete this sentence? Rapport as, what is the idea that comes to your mind? What is the sentence? What is the word that comes to your mind? Can you share that, please, in the chat box? Good. Physics, my teacher couldn't help me well with my learning. I agree. Relationship, essential. Good relationship, important. Good vibes, excellent. Essence of relationship, good. Building a good relationship, fantastic. Those and excellent responses. Key, fantastic. A good word, a good word. Having affinity, good. Human positive learning. Thank you, guys. Excellent, excellent, fantastic. Let me start defining rapport from the dictionary, Longman Dictionary. If you put that word, you can find this definition: friendly agreement and understanding between people. But if we apply this definition to our context, which means the English language teaching or classes, we can find it like this: rapport is to have positive, enjoyable, and respectful relationship with your students and the ability to communicate well with them. We know that the purpose of any language is to be able to communicate, and rapport is doing that exactly. Let me give you another question. What is the effect of a good rapport? What do you think? If you have a good rapport with your students, if you have a good communication, what will be that effect to your class and your students? Good vibes, good, positive learning, highly motivated learners. Great, lovely. What else? Students would enjoy learning. Thank you. Students will love the class. This is also fantastic. Good, good. Enhanced motivation, healthy, lovely. That's great answers, guys. The students would never be absent. Good point. Fantastic. Thank you for sharing your points. Now let me share my points. So if you go here, we have creates a comfortable learning environment, increases interest. They want to know more, to learn more, motivates students, as you said, promotes independence, helps students overcome boredom, and leads to better learning outcomes. So I think we share the same effects together. But why rapport is essential in the online classes? Is there any difference between the online classes and offline classes, or they have the same rapport, not different? What do you think, guys? Why it is important? Not the same, Rasha. Good. Communication. But why rapport is important in online classes? Visual aids, good, to build the relationship between the teacher and the student. Do you think it is difficult to build rapport in online classes? What do you think? Is it easier or difficult? Yes. Nazia said yes. Intisar said yes. Thank you. Also, Mona. Mm-hmm. Good. Difficult. Easy, I think. Great. As face, yes, much. Online classes can feel more isolating, lonely. Great. Good ideas. And also, I agree with you guys that online classes and offline classes in building rapport, they are different because in offline classes or in person, your students will see your body language easily. Also, as a teacher, you can contact with them, all of them at the same time, which we are missing that in online classes. In online classes, you cannot just distribute your attention to all of them. I mean, your side. Also, in-person classes, we have some beautiful spontaneous moments when you meet your friends in the corridor or while they are coming to the school or leaving, or when you sit with them eating in the canteen of the school. All these events can create some kind of rapport. Maybe you don't intend to do them, but it comes like this. But in online classes, I agree with you, it's difficult. Because sometimes we feel that the screen is like a barrier between us and the teacher. That's why in online classes, we have to be more deliberate about building rapport. We have to create opportunities for connections and show our students that we care. Because when we build rapport online with our students, they feel they are truly seen and heard. They feel more connected, which leads to higher engagement and better learning outcomes. And this is what we need as teachers. That's great. Okay, let me start. Before I start with the practical things, I want to share with you this quotation, which says, for educator Justin, teachers who put relationships first don't just have students for 1 year. They have students who view them as their teacher for life. Do you agree with that, guys? Good, Rasha, agree indeed. Yeah, fantastic. Good, good. Yes, very true. Totally. Thank you, guys. Now, let me show you some practical steps we can apply it in our classes to be their teacher. Those practical steps, I observe it or I practice it in my online classes. Okay, so maybe they are true, maybe not. I will listen to you at the end of them, but they worked well with my students. Let me start with number 1. And the topic is the magic of the first 5 minutes. We know that the first impression is very important. So when your students enter the session, you need to put your smile, you need to prepare your energy, your positive tone, your enthusiasm, and also you need to call their name with all of your energy. You can say, for example, good evening, Inas. How are you? I'm really happy to see you here. How was your weekend? I hope it was great. Directly, you will see your students smiling at you and feel there is some kind of connection, invisible connection between you and your students. Another thing you can do is to play a game or try to do an icebreaker. We know the importance of the icebreaker, like the ones that we did at the beginning. It helps you just to build the first thread on building your rapport. So you bring your smile, you'll bring your icebreaker, okay, and you will bring your list of rules. You have to put your rules and also the school's rules where you work. And you have to make it clear to your students. And also to show your students your expectations from them. So by doing this, you will prevent any misunderstanding in the future or conflict with your students. Just imagine you are spending months building rapport, and just of one student who break a rule, then it will that rapport will be destroyed. At the same time, you can ask your students about their expectations. I mean, what do they want from this course? Because some students, they want to focus more on speaking. So when you are doing your lesson plan, you can dedicate extra time for speaking. So when your students look at that you are applying what they have said, what they have suggested, they will feel they are part of this education journey. They will feel they are included, and this is will strengthen the rapport between you and your students. Okay. If you look at this question, can you please answer it in the chat box? How can you make your dreams come true? Can you answer it, please? Hard work. Great. By working hard, good. Dedication, fantastic, Safa. Time management. Prepared in accordance with the goal, believe in myself, working hard. Excellent, to make good plan. Good, to achieve it. Fantastic. Passion, working smart, consistency. Fantastic, guys. Determination. Good. Step by step. Commitment. Great. Good answers. Fantastic, guys. Okay. So your answers would lead me to number 2, which is enhancing self-awareness. Focus. Thank you. How can you make your dreams come true? What is your definition of success? Why do you study English? And how can English help you to achieve your dreams? These questions are life-centric questions, can encourage our students to think about their life. Because I'm sure when I ask you this question, there was some kind of brainstorming in your head. You thought about your future, you thought about your goals, you thought about your plan, you thought about many things. What about your students? We need to drop such questions, for example, at the beginning of the class as a warm-up, or in the middle as a kind of discussion or creating conversation. So here you will kill 2 birds with 1 stone. You will let them practice, for example, speaking, and also you will let them think about their future, about their goals, about their life and journey. Because let me tell you the truth, we are in the era of technology and AI, and it is easy to get an information just with 1 click, and our students are smarter in these aspects. So they can get the information they like and on the shape they like, as a video, audio, written. So it is not difficult. So our job, it is not just to teach the textbook or to do an amazing lesson plan or to focus on the quizzes and so on. Our job is to help our students to find the way, to find the correct door for their journey, for their life. We need to build their characters. We need to enhance their ability of making decisions. We need to instill value. All these aspects are very important to build it in our students. And if your students feel that you care about these things, they will be more connected to the class. They want to come to the class, not because of the book or the curriculum, because they want somebody guide them in this life. And this is, make me move to picture 3. What do you feel, guys, when you look at this picture? What is going on? What happened here? What do you feel when you look at this picture? Listening. Thank you, Inas. Good. We as teachers, listening for advice. Good. need to listen, paying attention. Thank you, guys. You got it. That's so smart. Thank you. So point number 3, it is listen and engage. Let me start with this quotation from Simon Sinek. Listening is not the act of hearing the words spoken. It is the art of understanding the meaning behind those words. And we can show our students that we understand them. Because as you know, listening is an important way to create rapport and connection. So how can you show your students that you listen to them even in online classes? You can use your head in nodding, for example, in your responding to them, in your voice, okay? You can say, oh, I'm sorry. Really? That's great. Fantastic. So the tone of your voice will play an important role that show your students that you are really listening to them. And also you can make an eye contact through looking to the camera itself. Also, it is a good idea if you keep, I'm an old teacher, if you keep a notebook next to you. So you can write down some of your students, how we can say, about their habits, for example, about something they like or they don't like, about their latest updates, about an important date for them, like their birthdays. So these private things about your students, you can refer back to them in the future lesson. So, for example, if Mary, I can see her name there, if Mary liked drawing and she mentioned that last week, I can say, okay, Mary, you mentioned that you liked drawing last week, but did you draw anything new this weekend? I'm really eager to looking at your drawing. Or maybe if Ina said, for example, that she had a conference, you can ask her, how was your conference yesterday? Can you please tell us about it? And so on. So those small callbacks can create a long way in building trust and making your students feel they are valued because you are focusing on that small things. Maybe they threw that small things during a conversation in the breakout rooms or while they are talking to you with some sentences. Just grabbing those small things and use it in your future classes will show them that they are respected and valued. Oops. When do we say this word, guys? Oops. What's the action? What is the story? Oops. Confused could be, so that we are interested and care about their well-being. Excellent. Good. Oops. What does it mean? Oops. Missed something, surprised, when things go wrong. Maybe when there is mistakes, apology, make a mistake, screwed up, surprised. Fantastic. Great. You gotcha. Yes. Good. So point number 4, accept the mistakes. Accept the mistakes. We need to show to our students that our classes, our sessions are a safe place to them, where they can be themselves, where they can make mistakes and grow. We can also create a simple model, like, for example, we learn from our mistakes, and keep reminding your student with that motto. Whenever they feel embarrassed because they make mistakes or they did wrong on the exam, you can tell them, we learn from our mistakes. You tried, and that's why you make mistakes, and that's why you will learn from that mistake. If you didn't try, you will not make mistake, you will not learn. So we need to focus on the efforts, not the perfection. Let them try. Let them understand that learning is not a station. They get it and that's it. And when you encourage your students to make mistake, your students will be more open to learning. and more engaged in the process, because the barriers of fear that hinder their learning have been removed, and they are ready to achieve something, to challenge themselves and go forward. Now, in point number 5, okay, I think I did a mistake here. It is not 4. It should be 5. I'm really sorry. My apologize to you. I'm really sorry. And also I'm sorry about this picture, because I tried to put a correct prompt in Gemini, but I don't know what happened. I couldn't fix it at all, because the teacher here at the picture should look at the screen, and the arrow here, it should be pointing to the. So I'm really sorry, guys. I didn't mean it. I'm sorry. Okay. Okay. Thank you for understanding. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Yes. Yes. That's great. Okay. Thank you. Now you are motivating me. So point number 5, not 4, it is authenticity. Don't feel shy to say sorry when you do mistakes, or to admit that you don't know something. If your teacher, if your students, what's for your teacher? If your students ask you about something, you can, and you don't know, you can say, this is a great question, but I need to check more. I want to search about this matter, and then I will answer you. Because it is important to show to our students our human side. Do you remember in the previous slide, we said that we need to encourage our students to make mistakes, and we need to be a role model to them. We need to show them that we also make mistakes and we learn from our mistakes. When we show our human side to our students, this will increase their trust with us. For example, we are, as a teacher, we are crazy to be perfect in front of our students. But being authentic is what really builds trust. Let me tell you a story. I remember once a student asked me a question, and I was in a hurry, and I answered him wrongly. After the class, when I checked the information, I found that I gave them a wrong information. So I was confused. Shall I tell him? What will he say about me? That my picture as a teacher will be broken? What I have to do? But at the end, I decided that I have to tell him, because he will take that information with him, and maybe he will tell other people about that information. So that wrong information, it will spread out because of me. I contacted with him, and my hand were shaking because I was so afraid. And I told him, I'm sorry, but I gave you a wrong information. The correct information is that. I was so surprised by his response. He told me, teacher, I have never thought that you would take that simple thing seriously, but thank you. I feel relief after that, and I have learned my life lesson that whenever I did something wrong, I have to correct it, I have to confess it, and I have to tell the others that I did wrong, and this is the correct thing. Your teacher will take you as a role model, because as I told you, the learning is a journey, not a station. We need to focus on efforts, not on perfection. We need to give a good example to our students to follow, and also to transfer that examples to the others. So authenticity is very important. The next one, as you look at the picture, you can feel as students with what? What can you see here above her head? What do you feel when you look at that student? Overthinking, stress, burdens. Good. Overwhelmed. Confused. Overloaded. Worried. All right, lovely. Yes. Good. Fantastic. So point number 6, the full package. Our students are not just students. When they enter the sessions, they bring with them their life experience, their sadness, happiness, worries, challenges. So we need to understand that. So if we look at a student and he is a little bit stressed or sad, we can ask him, is it okay? Is there something wrong with you? And after that, we can follow up with a private message in the WhatsApp. And we show them that we are ready to support them, to offer something if they need. And also, if a student wants to take an excuse and he sent a message in WhatsApp and told you, for example, I'm sorry, teacher, I cannot come, I'm sick. Don't say, okay, that's okay, and that's it. No, you can say, for example, I'm sorry to hear that. Please take care of yourself. I will miss you today, and so on. And if you need help, I can help you. These simple acts show the students that you care about them as a person, not just a student. It strengthens the bond and builds a real connection beyond the classroom. Your students will understand he is not just dealing with me inside the classroom, but also outside the classroom. He is really, or she is really caring about me. If we go here and we look at this picture, you can find that sentence. I prefer, what is written here? The matching exercise, teacher. Okay. So the point here, students as enabler. We need to share the ownership with our students. For example, if you have 2 exercises and the both exercises serve the same goal, for example, matching and fill the gaps. So you can ask your students, which one do you prefer? Which one do you choose to do? And whatever they have chosen, you can give them what they have chosen. And other thing you can do also, before send them to the breakout rooms, you can ask them, how much time do you need for this exercise? Some people will say 5, some people say 10, and maybe they will fight with each other. Keep it as it is. Sometimes the exercise needs 10 minutes and they say 5 minutes. So you can give them the 5 minutes, send them to the breakout rooms, and when the 5 minutes finish, you can return them back to the main session. They will say, teacher, we didn't finish, we need more time. You can tell them that this is the time that you choose. So next time, when you ask them, they will think deeply. They will think logically. And by doing this, they will feel that like they are decision makers, not just recipients who follow orders. And when your students feel they have some controls of their learning, that will help them to feel more confident, and they will feel also that they are more involved in the classroom. Next one, students as leader and teacher. As we know, we send our students to the breakout rooms, but we can do something good, that we nominate a leader for that breakout room. He will be in charge of managing the breakout rooms. He will motivate the students to speak English, because we know when our students in the breakout rooms, they tend to speak their native language, and you cannot just keep moving from one room to other just to remind them of that. So it will be the job of the leader. Plus, it will burden some kind of observation, of your observation as a teacher in the breakout rooms. So as I told you, the job of the leader, he will be the charge, or she will be the charge and managing of that breakout rooms. And when they come back to the main session, you can ask the leaders, what are the good things and what are the challenges that they face it on that breakout rooms, and how can they improve the situation in the future. By doing this, you are inspiring and you are triggering the feeling of leadership or the spirit of the leadership that some students, they are hiding them inside. And also you can make one student as a teacher for part of the lesson. So when they are teacher, they can correct answers, they listen to responses, and guide the class. By doing this, you boost their confidence and gives them deeper appreciation for the work you do. They understand how much you work, how hard it is to be a teacher. Okay. Point number 9, customize support. Okay, guys, when we are teaching in our classes, our students, they don't have the same levels. Some of them, they have challenges, for example, in pronunciation, writing, and speaking, and vocabulary, and so on. The problem is that we have just limited of time. I prefer that we can contact that student who has a problem on a specific part in WhatsApp. For example, let me give you that example. I had a student who has a problem in pronunciation. So I contact her after the WhatsApp, and I sent her some videos, and I asked her to practice the technique of shadowing. We continue like this for several months. And at the end, she gets improved and she thanked me a lot. But the most important part, that doing this will show your students that you are invested in their success and that you care about their progress, and you are ready to take some time of your private time just for them, to support them, to develop them. Okay, the last point is the reverse feedback loop. We can use here the technique of stop. What should I stop doing? What should I start doing? And what should I continue doing? This is some kind of feedback. You can take it from your students. But do you think, is it important to take feedback from our students? Is it important or not? Can you please share that on the chat box? They are just students. Why we need to take feedback from just students? Dua said yes, Ines, yes, it really matters. Yes. But why, guys? What is the importance of taking feedback from students? They are not experienced like us, teachers. To know how helpful was what we do with. Excellent. Because they are real judges on our efforts. Thank you. The learning matters. To evaluate yourself, get to improve our teaching. Thank you. To know the points that make them happy and the bad points to improve. Thank you. To understand them. Good. Self-reflect. Thank you. Work according to their needs. To know how to help. Because they are our mirror. Thank you. That we know how much they understood. Good. Shows us our strengths and weak points to work on them. Fantastic. You have mentioned all. This is the point. This is the point. So when students see that you are making it changes based on their feedback, they will feel even more connected and respected. It proves that you are truly partners in their learning journey. Thank you guys for those nice answers. Thank you. Great. I have finished my 10 practical steps, and I want to ask you, how do you know if there is good rapport in your classroom? What are the signs? Can you see something that show you, oh, I have a good relationship with my students, and that's great? What are the signs? Good communication with them. They are listening and happy during the session. Good. Students will be eager to attend the class. Fantastic. Right. You are absolutely correct. Students' attendance and participation. Thank you. Fantastic. Motivation, they pay for more session. Great. We need money at the end. The learners motivation, happy, attending the class, tell their friends, attendance, caring to do what I ask them to do. Good. Great. They make mistakes without being afraid of judgment. Thank you. Engagement, fantastic. Thank you, guys. You shared yours. I will share mine. So, number one, students feel relaxed and open to speaking because even with mistakes, because they are not afraid. You told them we learn from mistakes. Number two, they engage in playful interactions with each other and you while maintaining respect. Next, they ask questions freely without fear of judgment because they feel safe in your class. And next, they participate actively and bring up topics beyond the lesson because they feel that they want to share something with you because they know that you are listening to them and you care about them. Thank you. Now let's do the recap. What you will take with you, high energy, clear rules, the first 5 minutes, depth, ask life-centric questions, self-awareness, empowerment, student as enabler, leader, teacher, humanity, authenticity, customized support. Don't go, guys. Wait, I have a question to you. What activity will you try in your next class? I have mentioned 10. So which one do you want to share it with your students in the next class? If I have good relationship with my students, when they love it, when I enter the session, I can see certain behaviors, right? To ask them about their weekend. Thank you, Inas. The 5 minutes, wanna thank you. Customized support, great, Rahman. Will you accept their mistakes? Will you make them leader? Teachers, thank you. To make them leader, Hajar, yes. Great. 5 minutes. Thank you, Intisar. Aisha, the magic of the 5 minutes. Choice and exercise, thank you. Assign them the breakout rooms, I think. Productivity, ownership. That's great. Maybe make them leaders. Thank you. Great. Good. 5 minutes. Now, let me move to the next one. You will be the presenter now. What's one thing you think is missing in this online presentation for building rapport in online classes? What did I miss? Thank you. The reverse feedback roles in the groups. Thank you. Enabler. So what do you add to this presentation? What is the point that you think that I miss? Think about it. Thank you. Now I need your feedback, guys. Do you remember to take feedback from your students? Now I need your feedback. What should I add? I was asking how to convince them open the by marks in us. This is, you can put it in the list of the rules at the first day when you meet them. Personalized materials, more active listening strategies. Okay, good. How to reward the online students, prior knowledge, student expectations. Okay, thank you, Abdurrahman. Lovely. Thank you. Okay. You can also think about it and send your suggestion to me. I will be happy to hear that. Let me close this webinar with this quotation for Jem Scrivener. He said, "My memories of his lesson are of what I did rather than what he did, of my learning rather than his teaching." So thank you, guys. And I'm ready for any questions. And I really appreciate that you're waiting until now and listening to me. Thank you. Thank you for you all. Thanks a lot.
I think everybody's really enjoyed it. I have, for sure.
Yeah, Shall I stop sharing?
No, it's fine. You can leave it there. It's okay. In
Okay.
case anybody does have any questions, I think there's lots and lots of thank yous. It's
Yeah.
a pretty lovely session that, you know, you're really touching on so many important aspects of getting into the heart of the lesson rather than the mechanics of the lesson. And yours, I think, mirrors Mohammed's really nicely. So I think, you know, I think all the people who have attended today, they'll take some of your ideas, your activities, and kind
Yeah.
of take some of his elements, you know, this kind of that creativity part. And if you can put them together, I think there's going to be some magic in the classrooms over the next couple of
I
weeks.
hope so.
I
Yeah.
think. Yeah, it was really nice. And I love the way that this whole webinar kind of started very kind of linguistically and has kind of more like merged over into the kind of into the heart. You know, we've taken from science to art, I think, and that's so nice.
Thank you.
Fatima, I love the session. Thank you very much for all
Thank
your
you.
ideas, and for guiding us. I love the way you weave it into kind of like a story as well for us. You didn't just kind of, you know, kind of just go, well, like, there's this and there's this and there's this. You opened up to us. I feel like we've got to know you like really well in such a short space of time. So
Yeah.
you've shown your ability to kind of build your rapport with this group of people who, you know, none of us know each other. We're all doing exactly what we're asking our students to do, right? We're online. We've got this screen. We've got this barrier.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
and you so elegantly break that down and make us feel like we're knowing each other. We're all kind of talking. I feel like I've got to know people who are just kind of names in the chat box, and I feel like I got to know them better now.
Yeah. And I exposed my secret that I failed in math.
Hmm.
And this is horrible.
And to be fair, I think I mean I'm pretty sure most people can relate to those experiences. I can.
Yeah.
I'm old enough that they still hit students at one point, and I definitely got detention on a monthly basis. I'm sure I was not an A1 model student, so I'm sure
Yes.
there were classes that I didn't like, classes that I
Yeah.
did. A lot of it was down to the teacher and not the
Right.
content. So yeah, I think a lot of people can probably relate to that.
Yep.
Okay, let's do the last few slides so we can wrap up. We're right on time. Look, 3 hours. Wonderful. Everyone's
Yeah.
so good with the timing. Fatima, thank you so much again for sharing your ideas, sharing your experience. I mean, there's so much of
Thank
your
you.
experience inside of that content. So, and all those hearts, people really, really enjoyed it.
And I want to thank you very much for your encouraging, first of all, and Mr. Mohammed, and also the audience. They played an important role in this webinar. Without them, I will not feel that feeling now. So thank you for you all, and good night.
They were a wonderful audience, right? And it's such a lovely audience today.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like participatory, such a difficult word to say. So involved, and they really like got into all of the activities and sharing all their ideas, which is great. And yeah, but you did fantastic today. So well
Thank
done.
you. So, bye bye.
And that brings us to the end of day one of the Adult Learners Festival. I hope you've enjoyed today. We've been looking at, as we said, we started very linguistically with Jon Hird. There's so much expertise around corpus and language, and he was talking a lot about opinions and conversation classes, and then kind of moving through Mohammed's kind of new framework and really tapping into kind of students' needs. And then thinking, well, how do we get in touch with our students? And I think Fatima did a wonderful job of giving us great ideas for that. On the last slide, of course, I saw several people mentioning about the certificate. Actually, for this one, I'm home, so I should be able to get this one out in the next couple of days, which will be much better. I've been so busy over the last few weeks. It's been quite difficult to put that the last couple together. A lot of it's down to YouTube. It takes ages to upload the video to YouTube. But I can do that tomorrow. So hopefully in the next day or two, I will send out the certificate and the goodie bag and the feedback form. Please do let us know what you're interested in the future. Let us know what you want us to cover in 2026. If you want to become a presenter like Mohammed and Fatima and Jon in the future, you can put that application into the feedback form as well, and I will pick up on them as well next week. And that's it from us. We've come to the end of our festival for MENA. We would like to say Happy New Year. Thank you so much. If you've been with us for all 3 of the festivals, it's been such a pleasure to have you there. It's been so great for you guys just participating in the chat box, sharing your opinions. I hope you've got a ton of ideas that you can use in your schools, in your classrooms. That's what we're here to help you with. The feedback form, Dua, will be in the email that I'll send either tomorrow or the day after. And I'm going to leave you, no, I'm not going to leave you with this slide. I'm going to leave you with the event for tomorrow, because there's obviously one more day that's coming up, which is the Education Adults Day. And I'll leave this one up for a few minutes because it's got the QR code there. And I'll also put the link there, look, in the chat box. If you want to click on it, maybe you're not on your phone, you can register for tomorrow's event as well. Somebody asked about the YouTube page. It is MENA PD Academy. You can just type this into YouTube and you should hopefully find it. I think it might be MENA PD Academy by Macmillan, actually. But I upload all the videos to that space. So subscribe there as well. And if you want to subscribe to the newsletter, I will put the website in there as well. Great. Thank you so much, everybody. It's been such a pleasure hosting these and watching all of these sessions and meeting you all in this lovely online space. From me, have a wonderful, wonderful new year. Hopefully, I get to see many of you in the spring when we do lots of face-to-face events. I will be all over the place in spring. I'm going to Nal Tisol in Egypt. I will be going to the ACA conference in Morocco. I will be going to Jordan for events. KSA, I think I'm going to be going in Feb. And then, of course, we have a little downtime in Ramadan, which is lovely. And then we'll be busy again April, May time. So a busy season coming up. Hopefully I do get to see any of you in person. If you see me out and about anywhere, please come and say hi, introduce yourself, say we've met online. It would be wonderful to meet you. It's always wonderful to meet you guys. And if not, and you're in a country that I don't get to visit very often, hopefully I will see you in June or July time for the next webinar sessions that we will run then. But for now, take care, everybody. Have a happy new year, and we'll look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care.